just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar, brought to you by the DMP shirts. That's right, I'm wearing one right now. 6 p.m. tonight, New South Wales time. The DMP shirts, limited edition, 2024 Bloke in a Bar Hello Sport drop. We only do these once a year, and we never, ever repeat designs. So, guys, at 6 p.m. tonight, grab the shirts. This is the highest quality material we've ever used. I think it's one of the best shirts we've ever made, guys. And basically, at 6 p.m. tonight, New South Wales time, once they're gone, they're gone. This is the most limited we've ever done as well. So set your alarms, be there. If you've ever enjoyed any of the Bloke content, any of the Hello Sport content, all the DMP, grab a t-shirt. It is the best and most direct way to support the DMP. We would really appreciate it, guys, because that's how we keep the lights on. That's how we keep growing. That's how we do bigger and better things. That is 6 p.m. tonight, New South Wales time. The DMP shirt's the best in the business. I absolutely love this shirt. Also, do not forget to like and subscribe. Head to our YouTube. I was speaking in the green room to the boys before. We have absolutely huge plans for our YouTube channel. So go to our YouTube channel, press subscribe, like the video as well. And also, head to Spotify. Follow us on Spotify because they now do clips as well, and we have massive, massive plans for Spotify. So head to Spotify, give us a follow because they've got all new features that they're going to be rolling out pretty soon, and we're going to be right on top of it. So make sure to like and subscribe. The great Gurino, how you going, brother?
Going well, mate. Had a bit of a clean out at the house over the weekend. A few boxes thrown out and whatnot. My God, we come up with a lot of merchandise and whatnot.
I know.
It's amazing.
It is. I mean, everyone knows this. It's an ongoing joke. I literally live in merch. I don't own any other clothes, so I've got 3 other basics that are a bit more zhuzhy, a bit more like keep the missus happy.
We've seen the bomber jacket.
Yeah, you've seen the bomber jacket.
Yeah.
See, matter of fact, so I was on the Matty John show, and one of the great comments all time said, "Seeing Kempy dressed up is like seeing a teacher in public." One of the great comments all time.
Yep.
And that's fair. That's fair. I live in merch. I think it's the best. I prove it. I live it every day, but I actually love our merch.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Kat said to me the other day when I walked in, she said, "You dress like you'll get arrested if you're not in merchandise." Yeah, that's pretty spot on.
That's pretty spot on. Hammy, how you going, brother?
Very well. Hey, it's a good thing you do have heaps of merch kicking around because I saw the chocolate incident the other day with Kat. She had to dip into your kit bag to...
Yeah, that was a tough gig.
Yeah. No, I had a good weekend. I had my debut out at Cricket Central on the weekend, the new Sheffield Shield facility.
Way. Commentating?
Yeah, did a little bit of commentating, not for anyone in particular. Trying to bang down the door, so I just took a mic of my own and did it with the great Gibbo from
Getting
SEN.
your reps in. There's extras.
Getting the reps in, getting the flying hours up, and we nailed the timing because I think the moment we left, it just sort of started to rain a little bit, and they actually didn't get back on all day. So had a couple of hours out there, but good to see the new facility. Hell of a training facility. Can't wait for them to finish the rest of it though, because at the moment it is a little bit limited where you can sit, but. The boys are looking good. Usman Khawaja, you'll be happy to hear Kempy hitting some good form. So.
I'll tell you what, that's what us in the cricket scene called getting your eye in.
Yeah.
Getting your eye in.
Nailed it.
That's
You've
right.
always said that.
Yeah, I always say that.
Yep.
You got your eye in, you're doing well, mate. You're doing well.
Yep.
Matty, how was your weekend, mate?
Yeah, pretty good. I actually thought the highlight of the weekend was something to do with cricket, not like Australia. New Zealand beating India in their 3rd test in a row. So they went over to India. In the history of cricket, they've only beaten India twice in 2 games over in India. They had a 3-match series. They were without their captain and best player, and they won 3-0, and it was the first time India have ever been swept 3-0 at home.
You know what we say in cricket with that?
What?
Get that India.
Yeah. Or as Ian Smith says, when bleak kip cricket is strong, international cricket is strong. And it is. Got the broom out, 3-0. You love to
Swept
see it
them.
when they're about to head over here as well.
I tell you what.
Special one.
I tell you what, the Kiwis looking red hot against us. If they're in that good a form. When are they coming over?
Well, no, so the India are out here next.
Oh, India are coming over. When do we play Kiwis next?
That's a great question. We should play them a lot more.
We should. I don't know why we don't.
Whenever they
next
come,
door to them.
Yeah, they're the closest neighbour. They're going to host England, and the good news is I reckon they'll absolutely spank England because they were under strength. They didn't even have Kane Williamson playing.
Because didn't a few years ago they maybe beat us in a World Cup or something like that, New Zealand?
They won the T20 World Cup. They
T20.
basically knocked us out of the T20 World Cup.
But they won the World Test Championship a couple of years ago.
So we're overdue. If they're in this red hot form,
Yep.
It'd be great to play.
Well,
them right now in
we
Australia.
could play them in the Test Championship final, which would be next year at Lords at a neutral venue, which would be good. But red hot form, and just great to see India absolutely paddling on the eve and coming out here as well.
And look, if I'm not supporting Australia, I'm supporting the Kiwis. I don't know about you guys. I know I've had some arguments in the past with this. I'm not sure it was this, but I'm always, if Australia aren't playing, I go for New Zealand.
Yep.
Because Anzac Brotherhood.
I'm the same.
Anzac Brotherhood.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know who I was having this argument with. They're like, nah, the Kiwis, they're our arch enemies. I'm like, no, they're not. Like, yeah, there's huge rivalry. They're basically our brothers.
Exactly.
It's like a brother. Like, you pick on them all the time, but if someone else picks on them, you go
very
for
true.
them.
And that's what, exactly. So there you go. There you go. Well, my weekend, you know what? It was kind of emotional, boys. My wife has gone back to Canberra to spend some time with her families.
City of Love,
as we spoke about on the weekend, and I nearly shed a tear saying goodbye to the little one. I couldn't believe what was happening. I was like, what is this weird liquid coming out of my eyes?
Pink eye again.
Haven't had a cry. Haven't had a cry in a while.
Farting in bed, mate.
Well, yeah, the little one has farted on my face before. Parting gift, if you will. I was quite emotional saying goodbye to the little one. I was like, oh, what's this feeling? Which, as you know, blokes aren't supposed to feel anything. So that was very strange.
Good point.
Alrighty, guys, let's get into some Face to Music with our tipping, brought to you by our friends over at Sportsbet. Give us a follow on the feed. I got two right out of my 5 tips on the weekend. Bella Nipotina got that right, and had quite a few people backing me in that as well in the feed. So thanks for getting around me. And then there was another one that I also got to place as well. So
great weekend if you're following either of us on the feed, Campy, because I also had the Black Caps to win.
Yep.
At about the $5 mark, $5.10 I think when it went up. And my best bet of the weekend was PNG minus 18.5, which was never in doubt as well yesterday.
Never in doubt.
And a nice easy watch there. So make sure you're following both of us on the feed. In terms of our tips across the weekend, boys, look, we all went New Zealand 1-12 in the Kiwi game. Actually happy to be wrong there. Great result. Great win from Tonga. We'll get to that a little bit later.
Rugby League is the winner.
Rugby League, the winner. The only person who got a try scorer was actually Guru with Kinney in that one. So well done, Roo. They only want to get on the board there. We all had PNG 13+ against the Cook Islands. We had 2 try scorers. Matty had Lockie Lamb, which was a fantastic try.
Yep.
And you had the winger, Derby. Now, I've made the call here because it's your rule that you've implemented and been pretty firm on. I'm actually taking a point off you there for backing a winger that scored a try.
No, but
it's lazy.
No, hang on a sec. I recall last week someone else had backed a winger, so I was like, if that's what we're doing, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, but I had the winger to score 2 or more.
Yeah, but you changed the rules. When was that rule ever existing?
These are my rules. So I've taken a point off you.
Oh,
yeah. So our cumulative
ridiculous.
scores
That's
across the Pacific Championships. You're on 7 points, Kempy. Rue's on 7 points. Timmy didn't put any tips in this week. He texted me about other stuff from over in New Zealand, so I can already sense a tantrum coming from across the ditch. But he's on 4. Matty, you are on 7, and I'm on 6.
Hang on a sec. I should be on 8. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I should be winning.
Well, all year, anytime anyone's tried to put a winger in, you've gone, no,
But
boring.
context matters. This is what you're doing. You're pushing a fake. You're removing the context from the situation.
You backed a winger in a game where the line was 18.5 points.
He was at $1.40.
Yeah.
In response to you saying, well, I'm going to winger for 2
or
in
more.
a game where they were going to win 13+.
Well, I had him 1-12. I thought it was going to be a tighter encounter, which is even harder. So I stand by. What do you reckon, Roo? Pretty good officiating.
Yeah, bloody oath. I thought at the time I couldn't believe you
The
got away
rules have
with
been
it.
broken. It's one in all in. The rules are broken.
Mate. It's your own rule. Kim Jong-Kemp, this is your rule. Anyway.
Oh, that hurts. Oh, I'm still on top, so it's all good. That's Face the Music, brought to you by Sportsbet. Even if they're all against me, I'm still, equal ahead, so that's all right.
Hey, a little bit later on, as well as getting obviously a big weekend, Pacific Championships, the final this week.
Yeah.
It's obviously the race that stops the nation tomorrow, so we might even get a cup tip out of everybody as well.
Yes.
If we can.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'll have a look at Gold Rush Guru on the weekend, by the way.
I was going to say.
7 of the best.
Did you
Thanks
back
for
it?
coming. Of course I did.
Yeah.
Please.
I actually did as well. A little omen bet there. Got around you.
Nice.
$7.
Pacific Champions this week. Are you kidding me? The game could not be bigger. Go to nrl.com/tickets. $25 for adults, $50 for families are available now. And I'd be getting in quick because it's CommBank Stadium. And you know the Tongan fan base, they get around their team. So if you're an Aussie, please don't let them dominate the stadium. Let's at least be equal. At least be equal. The last thing we need is a Tongan packed stadium while Tonga towel us up. So get down, make sure to get in the CommBank Stadium. All jokes aside, whether you're Tongan or Australian, get the tickets, nrl.com/tickets.
We saw what happened on the weekend over in Mount Smart Stadium. It was a 70-30 split in favour of Tonga.
That's what I mean.
There.
So Aussies, get in there. Get in there.
How good was? We're going to get to it all, but
I know,
the singing of the hymns
crazy.
and stuff,
It's crazy.
Chills.
Part of me is almost like, outsell us. Like, I'm like, please don't outsell us, Tonga. But I'm almost like, kind of do so I can enjoy your hymns.
Yep.
But nrl.com/ticket, guys, you got to be there. We could, with how good the Tongan side played on the weekend, I know the odds are quite insane, but anything could happen. So make sure to be at the game. CommBank Stadium, guys, it's going to be incredible. Okay, let's get into it, shall we? Okay, it's time for the Hungriest Player, brought to you by Menulog. This week's Hungriest Player is, and it actually could have been two blokes, but this guy, just some of the stuff he did, only he could do. Hungriest Player is Adam Fanua-Blake. He is our Menulog Hungriest Player. Use code AFB for $7 off Asian this week. Minimum spend $20. So AFB for $7 off Asian. Get that Japanese, get that sushi, whatever you want. You get $7 off it. Use code AFB. Adam Fanua-Blake, he is our Hungriest Player, and what an incredible game. What I am just so shocked at is with Adam Fanua-Blake is his ability to continue to go to another level. When he went from Manly to the Warriors, I was like, yeah, they've got a really good front rower. But I remember I used to talk about Adam Fanua-Blake and Tapua at the Manly Seagulls as one of the better front row pairings. And then he goes to New Zealand, he takes that next step and becomes one of the best forwards in the competition. And then he goes to the international game, and in one of the most entertaining international games I've ever seen, he steps up and they don't win that game if he isn't in that. They do not win that game. He was absolutely incredible. That try he scored, seeing a big fella move like that, plus the ball playing, the dummy, everything, the footwork, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, you can take the kid out of mascot. You can't take the mascot out of the kid. He was unbelievable. That try that he scored, if it wasn't for Joe Tarpanay, it's one of the best individual tries we've seen, right?
What a game to have two of those. That just shows you where our front rowers are at these days. You got Adam Fanua-Blake throwing a dummy, step, scoring tries like an outside back, and then Tarpanay somehow, some way, tops it.
The work that Ricky Stewart's doing with the short kicking game of the Canberra Raiders front rowers at the moment is jaw-dropping, to say the least.
Very weird extras at the end of the game. He's got his front rowers doing grubbers and that.
Corey, mate. Joe, over here.
And we'll talk about it soon, but the Kiwis are obviously missing a lot of key players, but they had Tarpanay, they had Fish, they had Leo Thompson, and he just took it to some of the best front rowers in the world, and he bullied them in the first half.
It was crazy. Taumalolo and Adam Fanua-Blake, really, when you look at it, you go, okay, who could ever physically outmatch Fisher Harris and a Tarpanay front row pairing? And it could only be Taumalolo, one of the greatest forwards of all time, and Adam Fanua-Blake, who was the back-to-back front rower, Dally M front rower. That first half, I'd never seen a Kiwi side get dominated like that through the middle, and it all was off the back of Adam Fanua-Blake. So he is our Hungriest Player, an incredible player, and the Sharkies must be sitting there just going, oh my God. And
isn't this week coming, I think, is the biggest week of Adam's career.
Oh, mate.
This opportunity here to go toe-to-toe with the Kangaroos. And they're missing a couple of, it's probably the spot that we're arguably the weakest at the moment. We're missing a lot of key guys. Geez, Adam could stamp himself on this game.
Yeah, hey, big game here. He's another guy who could be looking at a golden boot, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So he is our Hungriest Player. I tell you what, we're just going to roll straight into it. What makes us grumpy, but also whose frown was turned completely upside down? The entire nation of Tonga's frown was turned completely upside down. 18-0, go down there, beat the Kiwis. But I tell you what, Katoa, redemption. Sometimes you need the game that he had last week to have the game the following week like that. The mental fortitude, and sometimes it takes a while to see if this young player has the mentality of a champion. He showed it in the span of 2 weeks, and he is still 20 years old. To bounce back like that in a game that was as big as that after he had probably, arguably one of the worst games of his career, his short career, at least with his kicking anyway. Comes back with his kicking, wins the game, whilst, Sean Johnson, who has been around forever, this close to a Dally M, couldn't nail the kick when needed to happen, and Katoa comes out and does it. That is an incredible turnaround. That is a frown turned upside down from Katoa, and showed everyone why there are such big raps on this guy. He has got something different about him. His ability to stay calm in a situation where most players would have crumbled under the pressure at 20 years old, even without the game from the week before. For him to come back this quickly after the game from the week before and do it, that's the makings of a champion.
He's a 20-year-old halfback in a team with a fullback that people didn't know 12 months ago. He doesn't have a first-class NRL 9 in his side, and Lola Hare playing 5'8", who is a makeshift 5'8". For him to be doing what he's doing at his age is incredible. And, against the Kangaroos, it was a really poor game. Like, I still look back at that and go, if that 40-20 was a metre shallow, like, it changes the entire game. You put it in a kick later that I think Keon dropped over the line. Like, he got unlucky against the Kangaroos, absolutely copped it for it, but just the bounce back by a 20-year-old. And I don't know about you guys. Like, I'm reading some of the stuff on social media. I cannot, like, it's like people don't realise he's 20 years old.
No, they just expect.
He's not the complete package. Yeah, no shit.
He's 20 years old. He's 20 years old with a 6 that, not NRL standard at the moment and isn't actually playing his best footy right now. A 9 that, kind of a 9 to a degree, I guess. And then a rookie fullback. And he has just managed to beat the Kiwis in New Zealand after having not the best game. And that's why I focus mainly on the kicking side of things, because Katoa, his kicking game last week wasn't great, but his actual ball playing was pretty deep. It was decent last week. It's an incredible turnaround from Katoa. We'll get more into it in the review. But his frown has absolutely turned upside down. Tonga's frown upside down. He is our grumpy player of the week. Use code KATOA, Katoa, for 10% off your grumpy order this week. So head to grumpycoffee.com.au, put your order in, put the code KATOA in, you get 10% off your order. Now, let's get into it, shall we? The Roo, he's got a steamer. He's got a hot take here. What's your hot take from the weekend that was? Now, remember, people, the transfer has been talked about all weekend. People being signed, not signed. Benny Hunt situation, where will he end up? What is your hot take this week? We all sat around and said, do we have a hot take? This week, Roo has come up with a hot take.
Yeah, shout out to you Roosters fans. I know you're going to come for me after this one. I think the Roosters need to sign Ben Hunt for 2025 to make the top 8. I think that.
Wow.
When you look at where their side is at the moment, all the guys they've released, JWH, Joey Martin, the list goes on and on and on. Brandon Smith out for the first half of the year. Sam Walker out for the first half of the year. Even when those guys return, they're coming back off ACLs without a preseason. It's going to be tough. I think if they don't get Ben Hunt, I don't have them in my top 8 for next year.
Roo, at the moment, because Sam Walker won't be back till midway through the year,
Yep.
I actually also don't have them in my top 8 currently.
Yep.
Now, when Sam Walker comes back, I believe he's got enough skill that he can play a few games and just hit the ground running. But the fact they're missing Brandon Smith and Sam Walker for such a long period of time, and they've obviously lost Keary, they've lost Hargraves, they've lost Sua'ali'i, they've lost Manu. I actually agree with you right now. I don't have them in my top 8. If Sam Walker was playing the whole year, I would have had them squeezing into my top 8. So I actually do think that they should absolutely be focusing in getting Benny Hunt to the club for another year or two, because on top of all that, even if Sam Walker is fit, Sandon Smith, who's been solid coming through, he hasn't really proved himself as an NRL 6 yet. And so you bring in Benny Hunt for 2 years while Sandon Smith continues to develop, or even just a year, however long it is. I think I have to agree with you. I agree.
And I really like Sandon Smith. I think he's a very good player. But you've also got to bring, I would assume, Chad Townsend's halfback round 1. That's a new halves combination they've got to get used to. Chad wasn't playing the greatest footy up there in North Queensland either. They are one injury in that spine away. Chad, Sandon, Connor Watson from, I don't know who even comes into the side then. They are literally going to be blooding, bringing in completely new guys that have got no first grade experience. They're already losing a heap of experience with big name players. The centres, I have no idea what that's going to look like. Once again, They are one injury in the centres away from guys that we've never seen before. I also think, whenever they had an injury in the centres or in the middle or on the edge, Sua'ali'i Tupouniua had come in and played an 8 out of 10. They've lost him now too.
Yeah.
Like, the coverage is a serious concern at the Roosters for me.
So this is where I think, and again, pure speculation, I think this Terrell May situation may have something to do with freeing up coin to get Benny Hunt to the club. What do you reckon, Hammy?
Yeah, makes sense. I actually am inclined to agree. I think when you look at all the players that they've lost, obviously a lot of guys in the forward pack, now they've let Terrell May go as well. They're very thin in the halves there. The centres, as Roo touched on too, like they need a bit of experience. They need a proven, top class kind of half, I think, with so much change going on around the rest of the team, you need someone who's going to be able to steer him around well.
And you don't think Townsend can do that at this stage of his career? Because he was bought as a backup.
Not to the level that Hunt could.
Yeah.
So I think I'm with Roo. I think unless they get him, I think they're in big trouble.
Just a quick question. Sam Walker was injury-free. I've got them in the 8. Do you have them in the 8?
Yeah, if Sam Walker's there,
If Sam Walker's...
Yeah, I've got him scraping in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Matty?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the Roosters finally found their identity last year around Anzac Day with Sam Walker. As soon as he got injured, everyone was like, season over. And he's going to come back halfway through next year, sure, but he's going to be coming off an ACL. I'm sure he can bounce back into it quickly. But, we haven't seen him come back from an ACL injury before, so we don't know.
But do you have them in the 8 if Sam Walker is starting the year?
So that's what I was going to say. Yes, 100%. But I'm with you. I reckon they're a bit lost at the moment without Sam Walker, plus all of these people that they're losing, including potentially Terrell May. And I do think Ben Hunt can fix that in some way.
I also think with Chad, like, if you gave them Manu and Sua'ali'i back, I think Chad can make that work.
Yeah,
but I think Chad needs the weapons around him. He isn't a Sam Walker that can win games of football off the top of his own head. That's where they're lacking weapons. They're lacking key guys in key positions. Once again, you're also relying on Sam Walker or Cheese to arrive midway through the season off an ACL and be the guys they were, which history tells us they won't be.
It'll take time. Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I think they need to go. I'll put it this way. If I was Roosters roster management, I'd be going super hard at Benny Hunt. Because you could even go Ben Hunt, Townsend, 6-7 if you wanted to. If Sandon Smith, let's just say, I don't know, doesn't have the best preseason or gets a niggly injury or whatever, you could put Benny Hunt at 6 if you had to.
Yeah.
And because like Flanagan and Townsend are relatively similar style of players.
Yep.
But I do think that, it's going to be a tough year for the Roosters. I'm really interested to see what the direction is for the Roosters, because usually when this happens, as in they lose a lot of players or whatever, or they're on a recruitment roundabout, they sign big stars. We look back 2013, it was Sonny Bill, it was Michael Jennings, it was Maloney, I think.
Yep.
Then you go back to 2018, it was Teddy, it was Cronk. The last big round for them was probably, you reckon, Brandon Smith and someone else came in as well. Anyway, Brandon Smith and someone else. This time, it seems like the Roosters are gearing up for something.
Yep.
They are too slick of a club to have all these players leaving and not be gearing up for something. I'm actually quite surprised that something big hasn't hit yet when it comes to recruitment with the Roosters.
They have to make a splash somewhere.
Yeah.
They have to.
And so I think this Terrell May, because it's become out of nowhere, I think that may have a lot to do with them going, look, if we have a surplus-ish, even though I think Terrell May is an amazing front rower, who's a guy in our forward pack that's on not too big of a contract that literally 16 other clubs will get immediately? So the report is he's on around $500K a year. 16 other clubs, nearly 16 anyway, maybe it's 13, would jump at him at $600K a year, maybe even $700K a year. So they've probably identified Terrell May as a guy that could get moved immediately. And that's why I think that this has landed now, because I do think they're going to chase Benny Hunt pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was probably their best forward this year as well, Terrell May.
Yeah, definitely one of them. Definitely one of them.
Yeah, so but hard to see them moving him on if there's not a good reason for it. And, that would kind of make sense if they're going to make a play at Ben Hunt.
Yeah, especially they've lost so much already.
Yeah.
So for them to just go, this yarn about, doesn't fit Colt. I don't believe it. He was re-signed halfway through the year. Terrell May didn't change as a bloke, in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like they are gearing up for a big play in the market.
Best front rower, sorry, by the way, Angus Crichton was their best forward overall.
Yeah. I think they need to. There's so much uncertainty about their whole 13 this year. who's going to play wing, who's going to play centre, where's Mark Nwanga-Nitawaze going to play, where's Radley going to play, is he going to play lock, is he going to play second row, where's Connor Watson going to play, where's Egan Butcher like there's only a couple of positions that are truly locked in. Is Spencer Leniu going to start? Like, there's so much. Like this time last year, there was too many people in positions, and we kind of knew what was going on. But yeah, I think there's a lot of question marks this year.
This time last year, we were arguing as to who was going to get dropped in the back line to get Dom Young in. And just quickly, I think I'm going to keep mentioning it for another year or two. It doesn't get spoken about enough. Radley played with a broken friggin' scapula for a whole final series, and like it barely gets spoken about. It is one of the bravest things I've ever seen in my life, and it literally never gets talked about. It's fucking mental.
He's tough as nails, Radley.
It's insane. Alrighty, so that is the hot take for the week, guys. As always, Rue comes in peace. We all come in peace, actually, because we agree with Rue. And just a note, the little note is, if Sam Walker was injury-free, we would all have them scraping in the 8 at this stage. But it is the fact that Sam Walker is not there that Benny Hunt looks like. So, yeah, so interesting for the Roosters. Now, on to Ben Hunt, what we were just talking about. Ben Hunt and Dragons part ways officially. Ben Hunt is quoted in saying, "My final conversation with the clubs were with the CEO, Ryan Webb, and General Manager of Football, Ben Harron," Hunt said to the Sydney Morning Herald. He was quoted saying, "I haven't heard from Shane, and I guess that says something about where things are at, but I didn't have a drama. It got to the point where something had to happen, and it's true. I didn't want to go back and train with the club in the preseason." Shane Flanagan has been quoted in saying, "Not one player, person, staff member or coach is bigger than the club. This decision allows us to get moving in recruitment for next year and beyond." The Dragons CEO Ryan Webb said, "This decision was not easy. It was not taken lightly, but we need to do what's best for the club at this time." Look, I just think it's good that this has happened because, like, they couldn't go. It got to a point where it's too spiteful. Like, there was too much, like, Ben Hunt had said this about, Gutho coming to the club, and Flanagan had said this about, wanting certain people at the club, and then there's all these leaks going on and pointing fingers, and, regardless of who you think is in the wrong in the situation, if anything, I think, both parties have probably have done things wrong here. I think it's just good that they part ways. I will say, and this isn't a hindsight hero take, we said, we all kind of agreed last year, and maybe even halfway through that year before, they should have moved as soon as Hunt said, "I'm out," because Ben Hunt then, on the market, the amount of clubs that would have immediately jumped at him and been willing to pay certain amounts of his contract, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, or been willing to trade someone pretty substantial for Ben Hunt, is very different to now, where they've had to essentially just cut Benny Hunt straight away. Now they've got about $1 million or $900,000 in the salary cap. Very hard to spend that $1 million in such a short amount of time. Usually when you've got $1 million in your cap, you want to be really, really smart and diligent about who you sign with that $1 million. Now they've got a very short amount of time with that $1 million. However, I think it's the best decision for both clubs. Root, what do you reckon, mate?
Overdue, but I agree, mate. The Dragons, they just had to rip this Band-Aid off.
Because they didn't make the finals anyway.
For another year, it would have happened next year anyway.
Yeah.
And I mean, as you said, they didn't make the finals. The bloke had 30 tries just last year. Like, how much more could he have done realistically? So, yeah, it's been ugly from start to finish, but I think they've made the right decision. And when you look at the players that they're signing at the moment, the Dragons, I think they look better without Ben Hunt at the moment. I like the side they're building. I really do. Yeah,
I would have liked it with Ben, like a happy Ben Hunt there would be awesome. Like if you had a happy Ben Hunt, Holmes, Cook, that would be good. But if you can get Gutho there, that's better than an unhappy Ben Hunt.
Which
leading your team around.
I find it hard to see how you get a happy Ben Hunt there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure. And even it even looked like, I guess, him and Flano just didn't click as like personalities.
Yeah.
Because the reports were that he was going to try to give Flano like they were both going to give each other this season to see how it worked. And clearly it's shown that they didn't click personality-wise. But yeah, even what I don't get about the year before is like to basically say, no, you're not going to get him released. Like, fair enough. Like, they've stood strong and they have every right to do that. They've got him under contract. But they hadn't made finals with him the years before anyway. So what I didn't understand with that situation was if Flano had have basically said, and look, I kind of respect Flano for this because it shows you how much he was like, no, I want to win right now. I'm not about this like winning in 2 or 3 years. I respect that. And I think that that's the reason why they went well last year. But I think that it actually would have given Flano more time to rebuild per se if he had have moved Ben Hunt on last year instead of going, I just want to make finals this year. Then we'll look to the future, kind of we'll see what happens after that. Now they're almost a year behind in their recruitment cycle because they waited that year rather than just, pulling the Band-Aid off immediately.
And you know what? Like if they would have pulled the Band-Aid off a year ago, hate to say it, Hammy, like I reckon them with like Jerome Luai under Flano, that would have been unreal. That would have been perfect for them.
Oh, well, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
I'm trying to think who has been available. So Sam Walker basically was off November 1 this year. I don't know if they could have made a big play at him. Then you've got, and look, granted, I get it. Like from a Dragons fan perspective, we've got to be realistic about who we actually could have got. But Jerome Luai would have been potentially available.
I'm pretty sure Moses was available at some point last few
around
years.
that same time, potentially. Yeah. Actually, you know what? When he initially was saying, I want out, Moses was actually available. He hadn't taken up his option yet. So there's that. But anyway, look, that's all happened. There's almost no point talking about it. It's what's done is done. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, it was a when, not if it was going to happen. I think it just kind of, it would kick off, every couple of months, and then they'd be sweet, and then it'd just kind of pop up again and just be a distraction. So I think for the Dragons' sake, it just had to happen. You're right, they're in a tough spot now. It would have been better timing 12 months earlier. They would have had more time to, plan for what they're going to do. Very tough now with not a lot of options on the market who they're going to go for. It looks like they might have to retrofit, or there's a bit of chat about, Gutho might play 6 and, a few things like that. So I think it's going to hurt them next year. I know, Roo, you're still pretty hot on the Dragons, but I think losing a player like Hunt and not being able to replace him with another, really quality number 7 or really quality half, I could actually see them sliding quite a bit.
I just am like Flano for me. I just have so much belief in his ability to just make something happen. I don't know what it is about. He's in chaos and things are not going great. His ability to just make things happen. But I think that if you keep an unhappy Ben Hunt there, the long-term effect that may have.
Yep.
Like, I just don't know whether it's worth it.
Yep.
I think the other name too, when you were talking about other guys that could have signed, like it was December 19th, the end of last season, Tom Dearden re-signs on a 5-year deal. Like that was the other one that they were going hard in the market for.
They actually were, yeah.
So he could have been the one to bring down there. I don't think the Dragons win a comp or anything like that. I think a lot of people tip them to finish in the bottom 4 once again. I think if they get Gutho, I think him and Flano are just a match made in heaven.
See, so this is where I'm interested to see what they do. Okay, actually, you know what? We'll stay on the Ben Hunt, and then we'll get to the Dragon situation, because where do you reckon Ben Hunt will end up? So there's been talks about Dolphins. Dolphins have basically offered him a deal. You've got, obviously, there's talks about the Broncos. There's talk about the Roosters. I know he said he wants to go somewhere to win a comp, but I just look, okay, he could probably get about 800K. The Roosters, right now, you reckon?
Yep.
They'd probably 700-800K without having to look at their books with the money they've freed up with people leaving. The Dolphins, I'm assuming, would offer him about $1 million. Mm-hmm. Then you've got the Broncos that, if he goes to the Broncos, it's going to be on unders.
Yep.
Because I don't think the Ezra Mam situation, it doesn't seem like they're going to cut him loose. But let's just say Ezra misses that one season. They're going to have no money to bring Benny Hunt. The problem with the Broncos situation is he's going to have a minimum value that they can't offer him any less, because he's still actually currently playing for Australia.
Yeah.
So when you add it all up and you go, he has said he wants to win a comp and he can get good coin, it seems like the Roosters might be, if the $1 million is, like, if he's truly focused on winning a comp, it seems like the Roosters would be the closest ones to it, but even them right now aren't really that close.
A distance off.
Like, but do you reckon who's closer, Dolphins or Roosters?
Yeah, I don't know. Like the Roosters they've had this incredible team on paper. We've all raved about them for years. They've underachieved year after year. Now they've lost half that squad. They've got injuries. Even with Ben Hunt, I don't think they can win a comp next year.
But I guess it's a question of who's the closest to win a comp, because he's not thinking, like, he's said that he wants to win a comp. So if that's his number one priority, out of all those 3 teams, you'd probably have to say, like, maybe the Broncos, but the Broncos then you'd have to be on a tiny, like a small contract. out of the Roosters and the Dolphins, who are the people that can offer him a big contract, me personally, I think the Roosters are closer to a premiership than the Dolphins right now.
I'd probably lean towards the Broncos. I reckon Madge could get a response out of them.
I mean, I'm happy to say the Broncos are closer to winning a comp, but then you put into the argument, will he take such little money?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Some of his comments, it seems like he actually, money aside, didn't mind the idea of going back to the Broncos. Get the sense there's like maybe a little bit of unfinished business there. If he was to go back there and take him to a little bit of success, that'd be a pretty good way to kind of end his career. Even if it is on a little bit less, that would probably open up a lot of opportunities for him post-footy, being back with the Broncos as well.
Oh, I mean, I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it. I just wonder where they're going to get their cash from. I just don't know.
I've got no idea what their salary cap looks like. A South's an option. Is that like he's obviously got the connection with Wayne? They need a halfback.
Just vibe and vibe alone. In the last 2 or 3 years, they've re-signed a lot of people, plus brought on Jackie Whiten.
Dodd.
On
700.
And Dodd on 700.
Until I see that actual contract, I refuse to believe it.
So I would suspect South wouldn't be able to afford Ben Hunt.
Jeez, isn't that Dodd one, like, without knowing how that's going to play out? If it plays out the way I think it's going to play out and they miss out on the opportunity to get Ben Hunt because of that, if you put Ben Hunt into the 7 jersey for South Sydney, they're in my top 3, maybe top 2.
You mean Cody Walker? Oh my God.
Maybe Dodd to the Broncos and then Hunt to South.
Now, there's also whispers about the Bulldogs. He would be a good stepping stone for Mitch Woods, who is Mitch Woods, isn't it? The young fella? I think that's harsh on Sexton.
So I think it's very harsh on Sexton. He's been great this season.
Yeah.
They finally gave him in there, took him all the way to the finals for the first time.
They could have made the top 4 if they had one that they just fell off a little bit.
They were bees away from winning a finals game. I just think, you might get Ben Hunt there for 2 years, but I'd keep going with Sexton for now. Then, in the next couple of years, obviously Mitch Woods, there's a lot of raps on him, but I don't think I'd be going and spending heaps on another number 7 now when you've already got a pretty good one, I reckon. Who a lot of clubs would go for as well.
Yeah, I guess the way they see it is, Ben Hunt obviously far more accomplished. They probably do have money in their cap. Is he a better, because the rumour was that Mitchell Moses was on the market and the Bulldogs basically were like, look, Mitchell Moses is a gun, but we don't even believe our roster is... It's almost like our roster isn't ready for Mitchell Moses yet, because the rumour was that they were like, look, we're still 2 or 3 years away from a push. And so... I wonder whether they've gone, okay, the Ben Hunt is a really good signing because he can be a good mentor for 2 years for Mitch Woods. Whereas if you sign Moses, it would have had to have been on like a 5-year deal. Mm-hmm. And the rumour was with the Bulldogs, they were like, well, no, we have so much faith in Mitch Woods that we don't want him sitting behind Moses for five years or so. And obviously Burton's got that 6 jersey locked up.
Yep.
But it would be harsh on Sexton. It would be, in saying that, it's a business.
If I'm Canterbury, I think I'd be focusing more on trying to get like Orion Pappenhausen there. I think fullback and halfback are probably the 2 jerseys that if they want to win a comp over the next few years, they've got an upgrade. I think I'd rather try and bring Pappy to the club. I think he was a Canterbury fan growing up and whatnot. Because I think Sexton can do a job for you.
Yeah.
At good value.
Mm-hmm. Really good value. Really good value. Okay, boys, gun to head. Where does he end up? I personally think the Roosters. I just think you got Mark Boris, you got Politis, a 2-year deal, probably $1 million a year, at least $800,000 a year. Very hard to say no to those guys. Like we had Mark Nwanga Nitawase on the podcast recently, and he just couldn't stop raving about how well they handled that process. Not to say that Broncos don't do that, but I just think the Broncos. I'm actually concerned the Broncos don't even have enough money to hit his minimum value that he can't sign any less on. I don't even like. Okay, what do you reckon to be at? He probably can't sign with the club for anything less than 7.
Oh yeah,
Absolute minimum. Yeah,
absolute minimum. I just don't think the Broncos have got $700,000 in the cap.
Yeah, well, gun to head, I think he's going to the Roosters, particularly off the back of the Terrell May being moved on at the same time as he's basically become available.
Yeah,
that's the big kind of clue for me that who else are they getting if they're moving him on?
Mate, I have a lot of... if he signs with the Roosters, he goes out the first half of the season, we know Ben Hunt, he'll make a good fist of it, he'll do well. He's not going to have a pre-season with Sam Walker. Midway through the season, they're going to try and pair 2 very dominant ball players together. It's going to be tough if they get him.
Oh, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be easy at all. I just think that when you look at what they have right now, And with the timing of Terrell May, like I think that's what they're looking at.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I can see it. I can just see
Well, right,
a
okay.
rinse and repeat of the last few years.
Instead of whether you think it'll work or not,
Yeah.
do you think he'll end up there?
Oh, I do, yes, because it's the Roosters. They tend to get their way. I really want to see him at the Dolphins, though. I'd much rather see him there.
I like the Dolphins because of the Katoa situation.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him teach Katoa. And I just look at the Broncos and go, geez, like him in that spine somewhere, whether it's 9 or even, 6, far out. It would just be crazy.
I also think of the Dolphins, like, I'm sorry, if they get, like, it wouldn't surprise me if they finish higher than the Roosters next year. It really wouldn't.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
Okay.
if you get Tom Gilbert back and he's back to his sort of origin best, if
And
Dan
Flegler.
Saifidi goes up there in a new environment and he kicks on,
And Flegler would have to come back, wouldn't he?
Flegler would probably have
Yeah,
to come
yeah.
back, yes. But, like, you'll have, another season of Plath at 13, Isaiah Katoa in the halfback spot. Like, you got one of the world's best centres. You got Hamiso at fullback. Like, they're a good footy side up there.
Well, they might even have Herbie and Hamiso in the centres and bloody...
Or he's injured for the first, but he's in
I
trade.
always
Yeah, he's
forget
not
ACL.
available.
Yeah.
Idiot. Look, I think he ends up at the Roosters. I just, out of all three, I think Broncos are the least likely. I just don't know where they find $700,000.
Do you think the Roosters can win a comp if they get Ben Hunt?
If Mark Nwanga hits the ground running, you got Tupou, you got Young, you got
Billy Smith.
Billy Smith. Those 4 guys as outside backs are pretty hectic. Teddy is still red hot. I think they could. We'll put it this way. I think much lesser rosters have gone deep into the finals. Now, so I don't know whether win the whole comp because you've got Penrith and Melbourne sitting there. Could they go deep, like into a grand final? I think the roster's still good enough with Benny Hunt at 6, with Sam Walker at 7. I think it's still a strong enough roster. I get the argument where you go, well, they've had strong rosters for years now and they haven't done that.
Yeah.
But they did go to a prelim last year without Sam Walker.
Mate, in order to get Ben Hunt, like I assume they're going to have to find a new home for Terrell May. And if you take him and JWH out, I just can't see it.
Also, they got to a prelim without Sam Walker, but the only reason they were able to get to a prelim was because they made the top 4 with Sam Walker. They only won 1 finals game. So
And they also were missing, so they're missing Sam Walker and Brendan Smith last year.
Yeah.
Whereas by that stage, they'll have them back. And also, with how White's played in the international games, if he can play like that week in, week out, all of a sudden maybe he can pick up the slack with Terrell. Anyway, we're getting into preview territory here, guys. Can't help ourselves. Apologies. Alrighty, guys. Before we get into the next one, it is a brand new partner. We are absolutely stoked to announce that Hubble, HUBBL, as a new partner of the Bloke community. That's right. Hubble Hub brings together live and upcoming sport in one view, so you won't have to jump in and out of different apps to find where you want to watch your favourite sport this summer. Even better, sport on Hubble Hub is integrated into one easy-to-navigate interface across all your favourite apps. And they have an amazing offer at the moment. When you buy a Hubble Hub for $99, you can get Netflix and KO Sports for $25 a month for 12 months. That is an incredible deal. Netflix and KO Sports for $25 a month, and you just got to buy a $99 box. That's a savings of $7.99 a month for 12 months. It's sport and entertainment for less. Plus, it's super convenient. Buy now at hubble.com.au. And I tell you what, Hammy,
Yep.
in the green room,
Yes.
you're talking them up.
Every day I'm hubbling over here, boys. I got one of these boxes a little while ago. I've got a little bit of an older TV.
Yep.
So what happens, you get your Hubble box, you whack it into your TV, and it basically turns it into the smartest smart TV it can possibly be. Any streaming service you're using, there's no lagging like I used to get with my, Chrome box. Been an absolute game changer. Love the Hubble box, so great to have them on board.
It's have it all in one spot.
Yep.
That is sick.
One remote as well, just
Yeah.
so easy.
Yeah, rather than having to get out of the, Apple TV, then you go into the code.
Yep.
Yeah, so good. As a matter of fact, Matty's even been thinking about getting it as well, so we'll have to get onto that.
that almost, what your recommendation this morning, Hammy, has pretty much put me over the edge.
Yeah.
Seriously.
That's what I'm here for.
So get around it. Hubble, guys, a massive thank you for Hubble for joining the podcast. We really do appreciate it. And if you're thinking about jumping on board, make sure to jump on board. Support them because they support us. Alrighty, it's rumoured that Clint Gutherson and the Eels have agreed to part ways immediately. He's closing in on a 3-year deal reportedly. There are also reports that Flanagan has confirmed that Gutherson will play fullback and that he has to complete a medical before officially signing. I tell you what what I find interesting about him going, he will play fullback, suggests to me, I reckon the Dragons, and we actually spoke about this on the transfer show, I reckon they're making a big play for Atkinson from the Sharkies because Trindle just re-signed with the Sharks, and I feel like we were the first ones talking about Atkins to the Dragons now, because now the noise, and look, I'm not suggesting that the recruitment officers out there would have been looking at this ages before us, but at least publicly, we were one of the first ones talking about it. Now the noise and the drums are starting to beat for Atkinson to Dragons. And I think that by him saying that Gutherson will definitely play fullback if he does arrive at the Dragons, suggests to me that they are making a big play at Atkinson. On top of that, it also suggests to me that the fact that they've allowed Ben Hunt to leave, but they're going to play Gutho at fullback, means that isn't the like-for-like swap that we all thought it was. We all thought Ben Hunt's leaving and that's why they're bringing Gutho in. But I actually think, no, they just got money in the cap. They can bring Gutho in. Atkinson with Flanagan in the halves, that could be a possibility next year. What do you reckon, boys?
Yeah, I really like it. I found it interesting just reading stuff on socials and whatnot about who's going to play halfback. The same bloke that played halfback last year and did well. Like, he wore 6, played halfback. I'm so confident that Shane can get another good season out of Kyle. He'll do well there. Atkinson is just such a wild card, isn't he?
Yeah. I think he'd be great for him.
I think he'd be unreal.
Yeah.
He'd fit in really well there.
And I think that just like where he's at in his career actually would fit really well with Flanagan because, Flano wouldn't really have to worry about, deferring to his seniority. Flanagan's obviously played more games. He's been around for quite a long time now. And so Atkinson can just come in and just play off the back of the foundation that, Flano lead.
I think as well, the other big key factor here, if they were to get Atkinson, he's a young guy, he doesn't have a heap of experience. I assume they're going to play Damien Cook in like a roaming lock role, who can take on a bit of that leadership and direction and whatnot. I feel if they get Atkinson and they've got Gutho at fullback, I don't know where it leaves Sloan, but I feel very confident the Dragons have a good season.
Yeah, I mean, if they get Atkinson and Gutho at the back there with Holmes, with Cook, with Little playing his best footy of his career, I like it. There were whispers there was some connections with some other clubs, but I'd be pretty shocked if he doesn't end up at the Dragons.
Yeah, well, everything that you hear suggests that he's going to go there. I think he'd be a pretty logical fit for them. Interesting point you raised about Sloan, Rue. What do you think this sort of means?
Well, there was talk he would be on the wing.
On the wing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay with.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I've wanted him to go to the wing for quite a while just to almost force him into having to do all the scoots and just get him into that, building that trust with Flano and week in, week out footy where he's not in such a key position.
So what would that mean? You'd have Gutho at fullback. You would have Sloan on one wing. You would have Tuipulotu on the other wing. Centers would be
Holmes, Sua'ali'i. Not bad.
That's a gun back line.
It's a pretty good back line.
Yep.
Pretty good back line.
The forward pack's already good. They can hold their own.
Yeah.
I was just going to say the other name, there was a bit of chat around in the number 6 that they may be potentially having a look at is Adam Dewey. There was a little bit of chat about that maybe happening as well. But I feel like probably Atkinson's a better fit. They'd probably go harder at him, but I did see a little bit of chat that maybe, he could be a guy because he's not going to play 6 at the Tigers.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's going to be, I think with Dewey, I think a club probably won't pick him up until he's played a bit of footy this year.
Yep.
But that'd be interesting. All right, let's get into the review, shall we? Let's get into the review. Don't forget, guys, make sure to subscribe to us on Spotify and subscribe to us on YouTube. We've got big plans. Takes literally 2 seconds and it shows your support. We really do appreciate it. All righty, time for the review. Tonga v New Zealand, or New Zealand v Tonga. I tell you what, who had a good day? Tonga had a good day. Unbelievable. Go to begoodhealth.com.au. Use code DMP for 10% off. If you do DMP plus you subscribe, it's 20% off. We just had a toilet break because the great Hammy, the good day went straight through you. I've got my good day right here as well.
Yep, went straight through me. Just reordered actually. Just got a new box. Just 2 new boxes just arrived at my place. I've just been informed since we've gone to air this morning. So plenty of good days coming my way.
And the reason why I go straight through you is because obviously it's good for your gut health. Really good for your gut health. Among other things, go to begoodhealth.com.au and get around it. Okay, let's do the review, baby. Tonga defeat New Zealand. This first half was exactly how every person that's ever enjoyed rugby league dreamt that Tonga could play. And what I mean by that is that there is one thing that Tonga and Samoa have always had better than any Australia or even Kiwi, to a lesser degree the Kiwis, but that is their genetic gifts of being big, athletic guns. And that's what they did in that first half. They played to their strengths. Super explosive, super aggressive. Basically, they did everything that you would hope a Tongan side would do. And I think it might be the first time ever, even when they beat Australia in 2019, they played really well, but they didn't play as well as they did in that first half. I have never seen a Tongan side, at least in my lifetime, play to the truly best of their ability and almost take advantage of what is uniquely theirs, which is their size and power, something that we will almost never be able to compete with. And that's how good they were, the Tongan side. It was an incredible game to watch. The hymns in the crowd, an amazing experience. It is one of the greatest international games I've ever witnessed. It's up there with Tonga versus England. It is seriously Tonga versus England, I think 2019, one of the game, I think it was played in New Zealand as well. The World Cup.
It was World Cup, so it would have been 17 or 18.
Yeah. An incredible game by Tonga, but also the Kiwis also showed something that is inherent to them in the Māori fighting spirit. The ability to be down the way they were and fight back into the game and show bravery, not to turn over, even though they're playing a side that is huge, that is powerful, that's playing super aggressively. Even though they were missing a bunch of key players, they showed, I think it's called mana. They showed that mana, that Māori fighting spirit, and fought back into the game to give us one of the greatest international games I've ever seen in rugby league.
It was unreal. And mate, like Tonga, as you said, they've always had this incredible forward pack and whatnot. And I think that first half in particular, you just saw it all come together.
Yeah, fine. Like that was the dream.
That was it. And you know what I loved? They were relentless.
Yeah.
Every time the Kiwis made a mistake, they made them pay for it.
Crazy.
And you just, I think a lot of the chat over the last few days has been around, they finally got the halfback, which is all fair and all true, but it's the ruthlessness that I don't think we've seen before. Like that was the hunter.
Yeah, the ruthlessness, but also the ability to hang in there. Like again, you saw that first half and you said, this is when Taumalolo decided to go to Tonga. This was the dream. Yep. Like this was his dream of like this crazy forward pack that was just too big, too powerful, and too strong. And then in the second half, when the Kiwis start coming back, and you're like, this is a good old-fashioned Kiwi comeback, the ability to hold on and win it. Tonga, I'd even argue the side that beat Australia, they might not be able to hold on in a game like that where momentum completely swings. Maybe they did because Australia were coming back. But I'll put it this way, at least. I'd put it on par with that. I know beating Australia, you could say, is like maybe a little bit of a bigger deal because Australia's been dominant for so long. But again, I believe, and I said it last week, I think the gap's closing. I think the gap is closed. And I put this win over the Kiwis, not as good as the win over Australia, but it isn't that far away. It really isn't that far away. I know the Kiwis were missing some players, but this is the same Kiwi side that beat Australia 30, not the same because I got missing players, but the same core of players with Fisher Harris, with Tarpane. I mean, even just last week, they weren't that far off the Australian side. Like, think about if Tonga played like that first half against Australia. Like, Australia didn't blow the Kiwis off the park like that. And so it's not, I think the greatest performance I've ever seen over an 80 minutes is their performance against Australia in 2019. This would have to be probably the second best I've ever seen. It was absolutely incredible.
And as you said, like the Kiwis, they competed with Kangaroos the week before. And if you're just as simple as like a plus minus this week, the Kiwis gained Leo Thompson. Like Tonga lost Keon Kolomatangi.
Yeah.
Like I think people are sleeping on, like when you, imagine if we were sitting here on a Monday and I said to you, two forwards absolutely dominated the Kiwis. One of them you would guess would be Keon.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. It's an incredible performance by them. I give credit to the Kiwis. I thought they showed such fight and heart to get back into that side. Like you could tell they were just, that first half, they were just reeling, going, what is happening here? It was an amazing performance by the Tongan side. And look, I know there will be some people that try to detract from it because the Kiwis are missing some players. But again, I go back to last week. The Kiwis, they were in the fight with Australia last week. They were in the fight. So to pretend like this Kiwi side just isn't that good and it's not a big deal, I disagree. I really disagree. They were, what was it? It was 16-10 with 10 minutes to go against Australia, and it was their first game together as a side, the Kiwis. So this Kiwi side has come leaps and bounds the fact that they can play as well as they have played against Australia in the second half against Tonga with so many outs shows you how far this Kiwi side has come as well, in my opinion. Is an incredible performance. It's one of the best international rugby league games I've ever witnessed.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was good to see Tonga as well. I thought they were pretty good against the Kangaroos a couple of weeks before. Obviously, we spoke, Katoa bounced back really well in this game. He wasn't a million miles in the other game, but just, obviously a couple of kicks out on the full, a couple of kicks a little bit too long, but they spent a lot of time against Australia camped in their 20-metre zone and they just couldn't get over. In this game, inside the first 3 minutes, they got over, and I think that was a really big thing that kind of gave them a lot of momentum to build off the back of. But, that first 40 minutes was just, they were unstoppable, really, weren't they?
It was incredible. And I think that was, the difference may have been that they fully relied on that power through the middle. You look at the Sonny Luke try, you look at the Adam Fanua-Blake try, I think at least 2 or 3 of their tries were literally through the middle. And that was quick play the balls, front foot footy, and just knock the door down. I know their first try was out in the wing, but I like how they lent more into, okay, we're not one of those sides that is going to constantly strip you for numbers. Yes, we can do it, but that's more of probably an Australian style of rugby league. We're going to strip you for numbers. We're going to get it to our outside backs, our centres, which are incredible. Whereas Tonga's just said, no. Our strength is in our forward pack. Let's lean on that. It was an incredible game. We've already spoken about Adam Fanua-Blake in the Hungriest Player segment, guys, but, I mean, what a performance from Adam Fanua-Blake. It was one of the best performances he's ever had. This guy just continues to go to new levels. Taumalolo, I mean, I spoke about it last week. I was like, we've been talking so much about Taumalolo throughout the season of like, is his body a bit banged up and is he past his best? But then you see him go out and play really well in the first game, and then in the second game, have 100 post-contact meters against a forward pack with Leo Thompson, Fisher Harris, Tarpany in it. That's the Taumalolo that we know. So hopefully he can bring this form, A, into this next game against Australia, but B, into the season next year with the Cowboys.
I mean, he played the first 33 minutes, Taumalolo. When he went off, it was 24-0. And the time he was off is when they got back into this game. And then when you get to the back end of the game, when they had AFB and Taumalolo back on the field, then they steadied the ship. But yeah, Taumalolo was immense. And I don't know, I spoke about it on Instagram the other day, Kempy, like, if you're a Cowboys fan, where are you sitting?
I just think you just hope that this gives him the fire to come back in. I mean, there's no point doing anything else. Like, you being angry about it isn't going to change anything, whereas hoping that he can... Or at least hoping that, okay, maybe Peyton can find a way to bring this out of him because he clearly still has it. He was absolutely incredible. There was one really key point, I reckon, where 18 minutes and 30 seconds, New Zealand are absolutely screaming up in defence. And, again, showing that fighting spirit. They've been behind. They'd had all these tries against them. And they look like they have Tonga rattled. And all of a sudden, Tonga's rattled. They're dominating the ruck. The Kiwis look like that they're going to fight their way back in the side. Taumalolo gets the ball and completely skittles the defence, and that is the try that AFB scores later in the set. It was also off the back of Katoa, the outside back Katoa, I think, helping as well with a bit of a line break. So little things like that only Taumalolo can do. Like we always talk about, there's very few halfbacks that can play off the back foot. There's also an argument to be made, there's very few front rowers that can play off the back foot. But Taumalolo, he is one of those guys. AFB, they are one of those players that you can be getting completely dominated. They have one run, completely change the set.
They create their own momentum.
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Everyone gets on the back of them. Mate, you mentioned Sua'ali'i Katoa there. Jeez, I thought his first half was tremendous. Sort of slowed up a little bit in the second half, as did the rest of the side. But his first half, mate, they could not get near him every time he touched the ball.
No, his footwork, that line speed, just...
That right foot step.
Line break, sorry. Yeah, that
It's
line foot step.
insane.
He's actually done it a bit at club at times.
Yeah.
He's just the kind of guy that he's just got to remove that one Barry Crocker every now and then that he has, where he just, for some reason, he'll have 2 or 3 drop balls and it'll almost erase the 3 or 4 really good games he's had. But on the weekend, especially the first half, he was amazing. Even the try he scored.
Yeah.
Was a bloody good try. Like, that wasn't easy. That wasn't easy at all. Like, a lot of players would get taken out, drop the ball. The Tongan side was amazing to watch. And when I watch them the first half, And the fact that they're $6.50 heading into next week, the only reason I could see that is the bookies are sitting there going, Tonga have just completely played their grand final. And I do think there is a risk that Tonga have played their grand final against the Kiwis because there was so much emotion in that. Like, you saw how they reacted when they got that win. You saw the boys running onto the field celebrating, and rightly so, but it was like a grand final to them. And I just worry whether that emotional dump, that adrenaline dump, heading into next week might be a bit too much. Because I tell you what, that Tongan side that plays like that in the first half, they play like that against Australia. If the Kiwi forwards had problems with that, imagine what the Australian forwards are going to... Like, our strength in the Australian forwards is mobility and fitness, not size.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Like, this is an area where they could really, put a bit of a dent in Australia on the weekend. You mentioned the head-to-head price there, $6.50. The line's 18.5 points, which is ridiculous. I mean, I thought they were pretty good in the first game, and it was 18-0, but they had a try that was, Colin Matani couldn't get it down. They weren't too far off another couple. I think it's going to be
scored in the last set as well.
Yep. I think it's going to be a lot closer than those prices suggest. It's going to be interesting to see the crowd as well. You mentioned, I wonder if they burnt a lot of their energy last week against New Zealand because it was such an emotion-charged game. But, if it is like a 50-50 split or maybe even, a little bit more Tonga fans there on Sunday, that'll give. I reckon it gave them a big lift over the weekend in that game as well. I reckon they'll be ready to play.
Yeah,
$6.50 for a team that gains Keon, and the Kangaroos lose Cam Murray as well. And you might be right. Maybe they have.
I don't know whether they have. There's just a chance.
That's the only thing that I can think of that makes sense for this, though. But even if so, $6.50,
and they only lost 18-0, and it was actually 12-0. It was the last play of the game.
Yeah,
I just don't get this $6.50. It doesn't make
if
sense.
Keon grounds that ball, it's 12-6 with.
Yeah. In
20
saying
minutes
that,
to go.
the bookies are usually always right. For some reason, they see something that we don't.
Yep.
The only thing I can look at and look at what they're seeing is the emotional fact of it and going, look, there's no way that they back up after such a crazy game and play that again. If they do, it'll be one of the greatest 2 games you'll ever see from a Tongan side.
Yep.
And so, again, I'm not going to... I still think 2019 is the greatest ever Tongan performance overall. But I don't think this is that far off. I really don't. I know people will try and put holes in it and say, the Kiwis were missing this, missing that. I get that. But I think this Kiwi side is a much better Kiwi side when it comes to being able to handle players out than a few years ago. I think the Kiwi side has come a long way. And so, incredible victory. I mean, let's talk about some of the performances. We'll talk about Katoa and the redemption. We've spoken a little bit about him earlier, but to turn it around like that, it is absolutely amazing. We have finally, that moment where he kicks that drop goal and he is a 7 that Tonga have been crying out for so many years. Look, I don't know whether this is the turning point for Tonga. I don't know if it's finally happened. But I will tell you that what a very specific moment of how important a high-quality 7 is. You need a drop goal. You need him to make the decision to take the drop goal, and he does that. That's why it's so important to have a genuine 7 in your squad, and Tonga have one for the next 10 years. It might not be the turning point specifically, but it might be the start of the car turning. You might be just turning the wheel now. You might not have fully turned around, but again, he's going to be there for the next 10 years. It's exciting times for Tonga.
Yeah, for sure. And you've got a guy to build around now. They've just never had that before.
Never.
They've literally never had that before. I think it is a turning point personally. They've just never had this guy before. You've got an entire squad you can build around now. They need to, I personally think they need to find a 5'8" for him next year. I think Latu Whānau, I think next year's the time for that. Lolohea has been fantastic for Tonga for so long. If you have a look, he's played 19 games for the Kiwis. For Tonga. 19 games for Tonga. Only one of them hasn't been at halfback or 5'8".
Yeah.
He played fullback in his very first game. I'll give all 3 of you a million guesses at who his halfback was in that game, just to show you how much of dire straits.
As in
Tonga
a million.
Lolohea played fullback in his first game for Tonga. Who do you reckon the halfback was?
What year?
The year is 2015. They played Samoa. I'll give you the hot tip. Samoa's halfback that night was Tim Simona, and he wasn't the Roga 7 on the field.
Okay, this is good. This is good. So 2015.
A million guesses might not be enough.
Jeez.
2015.
Do we get some sort of clue? Did they come back from the Super League or anything like that? Or
He's played for the Tigers.
Yep.
He's played for another NRL club, spent time in the Super League. He is 100 billion% not a halfback.
Yeah.
I don't even remember this occurring, and it shocked me. I consider myself somewhat of a regular.
Played for the
nerd.
Tigers.
Played for the Tigers.
2015.
Played for one NRL club from 2012 to 2015, and then he moved to the Super League, came back and played for the Tigers in 18 and 19.
18.
Not Jordan Rankin.
No, it would have been a great option.
Jordan Rankin. Mate, I don't know. Who was it?
Mahe Whenua.
Oh, Mahe
What?
Whenua
Playing
was playing
seven.
7. Wow.
No
Mahe
way.
Whenua versus Tim Simona. Now we've got Isaiah Katoa versus Jerome Luai. How far international rugby
Wow.
That is
Mahe Whenua.
no
Playing
way.
seven.
One of the great haircuts all time.
Yeah.
Taken out. Oh
Yeah.
my!
You're right
God.
about the million guesses, Guru.
I
Yeah, more than
never
enough.
would have get it.
It was a haircut-based selection, though.
Yeah, absolutely. That was pure haircut based.
More to the point, though, Lolohea, they have needed just anyone in the halves for a
Yep.
long time, and he has done an incredible job for them. They've now got the two young guys, and, you know, if they have them both playing there next year, it might cost them a game or two here, but long-term wise, I think it's time just to make the play.
Well, I think also you got to be building into it. The World Cup,
100%,
and there's
yeah.
obviously Lola here is not going to be playing 6 World Cup. Look, I really, what I really appreciate about Lola here is that he has been playing for Tonga since 2015. You said,
Yep.
And so you have to, that was a period where there were a lot of Tongan players, and granted, I know he probably wouldn't have made whether it was the Kiwi side, he probably would have been eligible for. But there were some players that just didn't go back and play for Samoa and Tonga back in those days. And so you have to respect the OGs that were playing for Samoa and Tonga when they could barely get footy jerseys together. They were truly doing it for the love of their country. And so I really appreciate it with Lola here. But I agree. I think that, hopefully there's a genuine 6 in the halves with Katoa next year. But it's very hard to be too critical. I do think in the first game he definitely wasn't great. Very hard to be critical of him in this game when they got the job done. They, just found a way. There were a few times where he would kick early, and you could nitpick if you wanted to, but I just think that, it's such a good victory. Very hard to be negative. Not to suggest that you are, but I agree that heading into next year, I would probably go Whenua, Katoa in the halves.
And you know what? Come the World Cup, I want them to be my halves. I would have Lolohea in my squad still. He's still an important member of this side. Has been for a long time.
Great 14.
Yeah.
Great.
It'd been
14.
unreal. If you can find a 9, like if, Sonny Luke can maybe go the full 80, I would be more than happy to have as my 14. He's still got a role in Tongan Rugby League, and honestly, he might have played a bigger role than just about anyone else not named Taumalolo over the last 10 years. But, I just think the hard thing is, and we spoke about this a few weeks ago, Latu Whenua, he'd be my 5'8". He's not going to be playing first-grade football at the Tigers. So I just think when you get your opportunity with Tonga, you just have to throw him in the pool.
Yeah.
Just give him some experience.
Just on Latu Whenua as well, surely there's a role in this team for Samuela Whenua as well. Probably not starting because those back rows are just so good, but imagine throwing him in the mix there as well, just getting him off the bench somewhere. They're already going to be a handful next week, but come that World Cup, this could be a really good.
And this is where the other beauty of it as well. If I'm Tonga, I'm looking at the Pacific Champs next year. Australia aren't going to be there. You've just knocked over the Kiwis. Samoa comes back in. I'd be looking at these young halves going, with this forward pack, you can win this.
Yeah.
That's a good,
True.
Just on the makeup of these Pacific Championships next year, not to get too sidetracked, but Kiwis, Samoa and Tonga, that is going to be huge.
Oh, I can't wait for that. Because I do believe there's more spite between Australia and England than any other country.
Yep.
I feel like there's almost too much, not too much, I like the fact, but Australia and New Zealand these days, there's a lot of mutual respect.
Yep.
There's a lot of, we're brothers almost to a degree. And I know that when we're actually playing, we hate each other in air quotations. But I think a lot of Kiwis and Aussies would say that kind of spitefulness just isn't there because we are almost, brothers. Whereas England, there's genuine almost dislike for each other. You can even tell, and look, I understand why Super League fans have a dislike for the Aussie team and the NRL because, they would think that we walk around like we're better than them. And so I get it. And to be fair, we do talk about it we talk down the Super League at times. But also there's just an age-old Australian, bitterness towards England because of the history with England. that's much deeper than obviously rugby league. And so I do think it kind of when you're doing like if spite is your main priority, England versus Australia is absolutely number one.
Yeah.
Then
Spite Bowl.
Sorry,
Spite Bowl.
There you go, Spite Bowl, the Spite Cup.
Put it this way, last year, like I was stinging when we lost 30-0, but still part of me was happy for New Zealand when they won. A little part of me.
Yeah, because it's just so you know the players, and you're happy for them. Whereas like
I promise you, there is not one situation in my entire life where I've been even remotely happy for England.
Exactly.
And if the
Exactly.
Kiwis are playing England, I'm not going for England in
Well, put it
any
this
way,
way.
shape or form.
Earlier we spoke about how if Australia aren't playing, I go for the Kiwis. I'm never going for England.
No way.
Never going for England. The only time I would be going for England would be if they're playing soccer, and it's because I know they're stars because of the EPL. Outside of that, never. And I'm sure they're the same. And so, like, put it this way: even when they beat Samoa twice, it stings me a little bit because I want,
100%.
because I want the Samoa side. So that's what's so beautiful about this Ashes series that's getting talked about. And when I say that there is a rivalry between Samoa and Tonga and spitefulness, don't get me wrong, there's a mutual respect there, because they have so much connected history. But they literally used to war each other, Obviously, I can't speak on their history because I'm not Polynesian or Samoan Tongan. But outside looking in, the rivalry, it couldn't get any deeper.
There's always been sort of this floating argument of, it could be like a state of origin.
Yeah. Put a bit of money
I reckon
behind it.
after the Pacific Championships next year, it'll be a serious conversation.
They should
And
put
that's
it. They
gonna be
should put it.
all
I know they play a lot of games, but they should bring back Anzac weekend, put Australia versus New Zealand as one game, and Tonga versus Samoa as another game.
Man, when he said that on text the other day, I went, "Oh, that excites me so much." And then you just straight away just go, "It's just so many games of football."
Yeah.
It just becomes hard. I would love to see it, but it's a lot of footy.
And I think the good thing about the Kiwis being in the Samoa and Tongan draw is they obviously, New Zealand have so many Samoa and Tongan population, and there's always been this frustration of like that the Kiwis always steal the best Samoa and Tongan players for the All Blacks or so there is a lot of history there. And don't get me wrong, it's a bit similar to Australia. Like we obviously in the past have taken some of their best talent, but I think it applies maybe even more with New Zealand and the argument of that. So yeah, I think it'd be great. I can't wait. In a perfect world, you would love all those. You'd love England, Australia, Samoa, Tonga, and the Kiwis to all be in one comp, but just too much footy.
Yeah,
too much footy. Just can't do it. But yeah, back to the. I want to give my boy Daniel Tupou a shout out. Like, did he set the world alight or whatever? This guy has been one of the most consistent wingers he is still locked into his position for Tonga. Like, they got a bunch of gun outside backs that they could choose from. He's locked in his position, goes out there, does his job. Matter of fact, I think he's actually, in the modern era of rugby league, he scored the second most amount of tries or something like that. He's right up there. Daniel Tupou, for me, is just like probably the most underrated winger ever.
He's not one of the most consistent. He's the most consistent, not named Brett Morris for me.
It's just crazy.
It's insane.
It is crazy. And like, with Brett Morris, his consistency was legendary, but he's a smaller body, so you almost usually associate that with consistency. A bit of a smaller body, get through more work, their body doesn't break down as much. Tupou is a man mountain, huge winger that refuses to run under 140 metres a game. Like, if he hasn't run for 140 metres, it's almost like he's had a shocker.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it now. Like, he had 62 post-contact on the weekend. He's what, 30 now or something?
Yeah.
He's just such a champion. He's such a champion.
He's 12 tries away from Brett Morris.
That's what I mean.
And once he does, which I believe he'll probably do this year
33.
for the Roosters, that'll put him into the top 5 try scorers of all time.
That's what but who talks about Daniel Tupou?
Insane.
Like, he doesn't get appreciation. I've been saying it for so many years now, but and also with the fact that he will most likely finish in top 5 try scorers, his try scoring part of his game is probably the lowest priority. It's his carries out of his own end that he's always been unbelievable at. So it's the fact that his actual ball carrying is his strongest suit, but he will still end up in probably the top 5 all time. Just shows you how consistent Tupou has been.
Yeah, and as well, you have a look at all their grand finals. My God, he's come up with some enormous moments in those games.
Yep.
Jumps over Wolfman in 13. Really underrated part of that premiership. Against the Canberra Raiders, him down the sideline, finding Teddy back on the inside. He's played critical roles in a lot of very key games, and I agree with you, mate. We've even had conversations here, and I see it on social media. Like I think it was SEN put up a thing last week about their top 20 try scorers, and like top 20 wingers going into next season. Like he wasn't even on the list.
There you go.
I just sat there and went, he's a top 10 try scorer of all time. What the fuck are we doing?
Well, I mean, put it this
How
way.
often do you see him left off lists? It's insane.
Well, it's crazy. Put it this way, like he was keeping. So Dom Young came to the club. Then you've got obviously Billy Smith. You got Sua'ali'i. You got Joey Manu. I'd argue that Tupou was almost as quickly picked as Manu was in that back line. Like I'd argue that Robbo, when he's like going, okay, who I'm going to pick in that back line, him and Manu are on level playing field as to how quickly he picks them. And yet Dom Young was the breakout star. Sua'ali'i, the next big superstar in rugby league. I just think Tupou, and like even in this game, a lot of the focus will go into Katoa on the other side, and rightly so. He was amazing. He had 2 line breaks. He had the tries for sure. I get it, but I just wanted to give my man Tupou another shout out because he was outstanding.
In his time at the Roosters, Sua'ali'i, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, and Blake Ferguson have all won Dally M Winger of the Year at the Roosters. He just flies under the radar constantly.
And he just keeps turning up doing the damn thing.
And you mentioned his age. You said 30-odd? 33.
Right.
Sneaks up on you.
And what's it like? Can you get his meterage up for these last 3 or 4 years? It's been like even last 10 years. It's something crazy.
You know, and at the very start of his career, he had a few errors in his game and whatnot, but he got it out of his game so quickly. And I think people just assume he still has it.
Yeah, it's true. It's almost like it's just a myth that kind of hung on to him for a while. He hasn't been like that in a very long time. But yeah, I think his last like 5 years, he hasn't run under I think it's like 160 or something like that.
It even shocks me the amount of Roosters fans that seem to be dirty on him too.
Yeah, I don't get that.
So I'll go from last year backwards. This is average running meters for the whole season. 168, 182, 156, 180, 181, 171, 163.
So good. So good. And also, he's going to be top 5 try scorers all time. So he's delivering both. Incredible. Any other guys that stood out for you guys?
I thought Sonny Luke, when he came on, he obviously broke this game apart. We'll talk about that try more when we get to New Zealand, realistically. But, like, I know it didn't work out at the Penrith Panthers and whatnot, but you can see the ability there.
Yeah. I think that I really got an answer to the question of the Sonny Luke at the Panthers. He's still at the Panthers, obviously. He's still there next year.
Yeah, he's still there, yep.
When the CEO basically... It has actually nothing to do with Sonny Luke's skill, and rather the halves just got so good that they didn't need a 9 that was skillful. They needed like Kenny's skillful, but in a different way. They needed a 9 that was just going to get the ball off the deck, give it to Cleary, and he's actually almost been a victim of that rather than his skill set. His play style just doesn't seem to suit the Panthers, but I would be very interested to see him. I know he's a little bit older now, but like you get him down to the Raiders or something like that. With that
Raiders
forward pack,
would just be perfect.
Yeah, and was he like he's 28 or something like? So he's not young. You wouldn't have to worry about the rookie part of it. Just be look. It shows you how much the Penrith Panthers do appreciate him though, because they haven't moved him on. Like they very easily could get him. Like I'm sure there are other clubs that would take Sonny Luke on, but they've made sure to keep him, which shows you how much they do appreciate him as a player.
I'll tell you what, if something was to happen this year, and it happens every single year. Nath Cleary misses 8 to 10 weeks at some point. Jerome Luai steps up. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he becomes super important during that period this year.
Yeah, if you have like a rookie 6 or 7 and they need that 9, that's going to dictate terms.
Yep.
So Sonny Luke, great try.
I had just very quickly, speaking of a hooker that just got it off the deck and gave it to blokes around him, I thought Sullivan Havili, very good on the weekend. Obviously, the forwards were so good. He just kept on, shoveling the ball off to them, getting him going. But just his try that he scored, basically just shot putting off Fisher Harris, crashing over. You don't see that happen too often.
So strong.
Credit where it's due. Very strong run and a great try as well.
That was a super strong try. And it was just a perfect body height for him because he is so low, so low and powerful. What a bloody good. Havili's another guy who, very easily could have almost just ended up in the Super League. But when you actually watch him at the Rabbitohs, is he there next year? Yeah. When you actually watch him at the Rabbitohs, geez, he's important to them when he's playing well, especially under Wayne. He was bloody good under Wayne off the bench.
He's there for one more year.
Shout out to the Cast Patrol boys who pointed out about a year ago that he's like a turtle. He never gets put on his back. And once you hear it, then you watch him, he just never goes on his back.
That's true.
He really came out of his shell in this game.
Anyone else stand up for you? I thought, look, I just love their edge back rows of Katoa Olakau'atu. They're so aggressive. Like, imagine being a halfback looking up and seeing an Olakau'atu or a Katoa frothing at the mouth to get at you.
Yeah, especially a recently retired halfback who thought, oh, that was behind you. Yeah, outrageous. Like, the absolute dominating. You know, they were so good again and such a skill. Like, they'll be huge this weekend, you know, against the Kangaroos as well.
Mate, that's the other thing for me. Like, you look at those two, like, they've both been really good, but neither of them have had that enormous game where they just absolutely dominate and blow the opposition away. Like, if they both show up and have a big game against the Kangaroos, that 650 is still wild to me.
Yeah, it's they've got to be seeing something that we're not seeing. Like, they've got to be some kind of math behind fatigue or some shit. I don't know what it is. There were a few calls here or there that, you know, like, for example, Kinney gets hit by Fanua Blake. He was never going to make it. They get a penalty. Look, I can understand why the refs gave it to him, but I just, in those situations, for example, when the last drop goal happened, I'm so glad that they didn't give that penalty to Johnson, because his foot did hit the ground again and he got immediately back up and he was pointing. He was good. He was fine. Now, I think it was Katoa, whoever it was definitely offside for Tonga. And so I understand why Kiwis fans would be frustrated with that he was offside. I'm pretty sure in the international game rules might be different. I'm not sure whether the bunker can rule on offside from marker. I'd have to check that. But I always go back to the age-old, the Kiwis had the opportunity to ice that game before. On top of that, if you actually go back and watch the Katoa drop goal, his leg was hit. And if he had fell to the ground, he could have got 2 points there. And he was much closer. It would have been a guaranteed 2 points. So, look, I get the frustration from Kiwis fans that there was an offside when Shaun Johnson tried to kick it. But there was an opportunity to ice the game in a previous set. Then Asako also got an opportunity to ice the game as well and didn't. Asako also obviously missed that 2 points. It was a fair kick. But in my opinion, I don't think that was a penalty on Kinney. Like, I don't think he was going to make it, and I think he dived. Yep. Now, granted, I know some people like to keep it black and white, and you don't want to start saying who would and wouldn't have made it. So I just think there were opportunities for the Kiwis to win it, or at least go ahead. And also, Katoa could have gone to the deck and pretended that he got knocked over when he did his drop goal.
Yeah, I don't think referee decided this one at all. I mean, you even have a look at the tries that Kiwis conceded, like 2 out of dummy half for an international game. Like, and the Sonny Luke one in particular, mate, like, there was a break in play before that. Like, they would have had on their whiteboard all week, Sonny Luke, dummy and run.
Yeah.
And after a break in play where they had a minute or two to set their defense up, like, he didn't run from a metre out. He ran from about 10 metres out. Yeah, and like, that's unforgivable as far as I'm concerned.
Phoenix just too eager to slide out.
Just too eager.
Yeah.
And they had all the time in the world to prepare themselves for that. And, yeah, so the better team won for me, regardless of referee or anything.
Yeah. I mean, thoughts on the penalties or anything like that?
No, I definitely don't think it decided. I'm glad they kind of let it flow. Yeah, it's always just sucks the air out of it. What would have been, you know, we're talking about how it's one of the greatest games we've seen. Like, if it got settled by a contentious-ish penalty, just leaves you with a bit of a bad taste. Yep. So happy to let it fly.
And also, Shaun Johnson had got a penalty earlier by going to the ground when his leg got grazed.
Yeah, yep.
So, yeah. I get the frustration, I do, but I just think that there were, if you want to start going like that one specifically, you got to start looking at other ones. So I think the Kiwis had an opportunity to ice it. Alrighty, now to the Kiwis side of things. As I said, like, in the first half, you're going, oh my God, this is a disaster, absolute disaster. But they showed fight, they showed determination, they didn't just roll over, which I really respect. And although I don't want to take anything away from this Tongan victory, it's incredible, there is a reality, they're missing so many players. Now, does that excuse the 20 points that were scored on in the first half? Absolutely not. However, does it make the fight back that they did in the second half even more impressive? Yes, it does, in my opinion. I think that they showed a ton of fight. I think they were really, really good against the Australian side the week before. I think that, yes, okay, the first half was definitely not up to standard. They showed a lot of grit and heart and determination to get back into the game, and we've got to talk about it. That Tarpanair try. Like, to think that Addo-Carr Blake's try wouldn't be the best try in the game is insane. And what I'm so happy for Tarpane is that, we've been singing his praises for years and years and years. And even heading into the Dally M Awards, the amount of sides that I saw that came out with him not in it, the team of the years, I could not believe what I was seeing. Tarpane, ever since the issues of he should be starting, blah, blah, for the last 3 or 4 years, has been incredible. And for him to have his moment like that, I know it's a bit of a downer because they didn't win, but that will be remembered forever as one of the great international tries to stay on ball, to keep chasing, to keep fighting. You're a front rower. He has every right to stop. When that ball hits the deck or when they're going for a kick, he has every right to stop. But he's the one chasing hard. He's the one that continues to go. Kicks it with his feet, regathers it, and then puts it in and away, even maybe a little baby goosey on Katoa to score a try. He's a front rower. When do we, front rowers don't move like that. They're not supposed to move like that. Are you telling me a front rower, 20 years is moving like that? No way. An incredible try.
Isn't it just every front rower's dream? Well, I'll tell you it is. To be put in that moment. I'm sure a lot of front rowers, mate, that offload comes and it's catch and it's find a strike player. Get the ball to someone else immediately. I just love the way that he backed himself in the most unorthodox way possible. And even once he got the ball back, he didn't look for anyone. He just thought, no, I'll just make this work.
Yeah.
And just left him for dead.
Yeah. Didn't hesitate one bit.
At all.
Just squared him up and knew exactly what was happening the whole time. Just that's something that you learn as a 10-year-old playing in the backyard with your mates. You're not thinking about systems. You're not thinking about you're a front rower. You're just playing footy. There's a man in front of you. How am I going to beat him?
Yeah.
And that's what he did.
It was just it's like when you're playing pinball and you stick the little thing up and it deflects it off.
Yeah.
It was like a pinball machine. And he picked it up and scored. Outrageous. Mullet flapping in the breeze.
Oh.
Beautiful to watch.
And just to see that famous Kiwi jersey. I know, Matty, you don't like the design, but I friggin' love that design.
No, I like the design. I just don't like how they veer away from the traditional jerseys. Yeah.
You're a traditionalist. Well, I love those jerseys.
Yeah,
I think they're
pretty
amazing.
sexy. Yeah.
See the big fella head go down the wing there, score under the post, and you just thought, here we go. This is a famous Kiwi comeback. But then somehow, some way, Tonga hung in there.
Isn't it amazing too? I don't know if it's got anything to do with all the English players they had come in a couple of years ago, but fuck Raiders players, they just come up with a lot of shit like that, don't they?
Yeah, they're just footy players.
They're just footy players.
Yeah. They don't rely on obviously they got systems, all that kind of stuff, but they just have a dig. They just whatever is in front of them, I'm just going to make it work.
Yeah, and the amount of times that a Whitehead or a Hudson Young or something like that Tarpane's just come up with weird shit that you don't see anywhere else, but the Raiders just make it look like it's just part of their job.
Yep, absolutely. So it's a mixed bag for the forward pack of the Kiwis because the first 20 minutes they just. Whether it was outside backs or forwards, the Kiwis were just making error after error. Any time they got some momentum back, boom, drop the ball. So there were periods there where it was very un-Kiwi-like, some of the errors that they made. But again, when I say mixed bag, I genuinely mean that. I don't think that's not an excuse for a poor game because, there were certain times where Tarpane, for example, I think the Adam Fanor-Blake try, he just walked for 1 metre, which opened up that space. Don't get me wrong. I think Sorensen fell for the dummy, but just clocked off for a second. And even little things like, Fish got bumped to score that try. But in saying that, sometimes when things aren't going your way, you show your championship mentality, which is to fight your way back into the game. There are not many front row pairings that would have been able to cop what they copped in that first half and find a way to fight their way back in the game. Very rarely, it really did take every piece of Fisher, Harris and Tarpane fighting their way back into that game to get them back into that game.
Yeah, for sure. And probably at any point throughout the history of rugby league, if you're the Kiwis playing Tonga, playing one good half would probably be enough. It's just where international rugby league is at now. You've got to play the 80 minutes.
Yeah. It's the first time, though, I've ever seen a Kiwis forward pack, though, have to be, rattled. Usually they're the one doing the rattling.
Yeah.
But it shows you how far the game has come. But so, as I said, not a great first half from the forward pack. But the second half, as I said, I don't know many other forwards currently in the game that would have had the ticker to fight their way back into the contest the way Fish and Tarpane did.
Speaking of fighting way back into a contest, Kano Kenny's first half was an absolute train wreck. I imagine going into halftime, the kid must have been so rattled. His second half was tremendous. It
was unbelievable.
Bounce back.
That's why he was one of my players of the game. Like, I know that the first half wasn't great, but in the second half, it was all around him. Like, all of the points in the outside backs, all the danger, he was touching the ball or he was close to touching the ball. And it's almost a little bit like that Reece Walsh effect. Like, sometimes you just got to take the good with the bad. Like, you're going to have those moments where it's just not working, but when it's working, like, he had spiders on him. They couldn't touch him.
Well, it felt a lot like when, and, they're very different players, but when Joey Manu used to jump into fullback and you go, okay, the only way they're going to score is through him.
Yeah.
Kenny was a lot like that.
Yeah.
He was the only real guy that looked likely on that side, and he just kept providing.
Yeah, and he just kept turning up. Again, another situation of this next generation that, the older generation that was a bit reserved and had to earn their stripes and didn't want to put a step out of place and all that. They may not make the errors that these younger guys made, but they also may not have the confidence to bounce back if they do make the errors. Whereas this younger generation, your Katoas and your Kinneys, like Katoa had not great game the week before, bounced back immediately.
Yep.
And then Kinney in the same game, not the great first half, but immediately has the confidence to go, no, I'm not going into my shell. It's almost like a bit Billy Slater-esque, where, I spoke to Cam Smith about that incident against the Kiwis where he threw the ball back in and they scored and they ended up winning that game.
Yep.
And Cam Smith, I said, oh man, I'm sure Billy Slater was like, I'm never doing that again. Like, I'm going to make sure that I do the right play. And Cam Smith was like, no, he actually wasn't even like that angry at the situation or looking to change anything, because he was basically saying, that's what I bring. Like, I take risks. Sometimes it comes off, sometimes it doesn't. And Kinney in a very similar situation, not a great first half, but that's what he brings. If he goes into his shell, he offers nothing then. Like, if it's almost like he's not like, for example, Dylan Edwards, he can't afford to make 3 errors in a half because his strength is consistency. It is repeat efforts. Whereas Kinney's strength is his electricness, like his electric style of rugby league. If he goes into his shell, that's even worse for the team. And he came out in the second half and killed it.
James Maloney's probably my favourite player like that. Like, his biggest strength was that he had the worst memory of all time. He could make 9 errors and just move on to the next.
Yeah, well, you're no good to anyone. You're no good to anyone if you go into your shell.
Yeah,
like,
exactly
you're
right.
You're actually compounding the bad first half because now you've just gone into your shell and you're offering nothing. So yeah, Kinney, he ended up the game with, obviously he had 3 errors, but he ended up with a try, 25 runs, 240 metres, 59 post-contact, 7 tackle breaks, a line break assist offload, but also 10 tackles, only 1 miss. That's pretty bloody good for a small fullback.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, if we get anywhere near the start of next season and there's any conversation about who the Titans fullback should be, I'm going to flip the fucking desk.
I think it's all locked in now. I really
Has
do.
to be.
I mean, you're gonna hate me for this. I still think Bremo could be considered the best fullback at the club, but I see what you're saying. Like,
I agree. I think Bremo could be considered that, but Keeney, his availability and whatnot, what he's going to do every week, he's made the decision for you.
Yeah. And the ability for Bremo to play other positions really does work.
Only 19. Remarkable.
Crazy.
That's it. So he scored the second try for him, which was there's just the speed that he got to just on that play when he got through. Was exceptional, and that was right at the start of the second half, Kempy, when you were saying he probably went into the sheds and went, had a few errors, but that was the first time that he kind of really came out of his shell in that second half. And then that next try they scored that Phoenix Crossland finished off, he touched the ball twice in that play. That was
amazing.
Great play. He went from Kinney to Papali'i, back to Kinney, then to SJ, and then to Crossland. So he was instrumental in those 2 tries that really got the momentum going back in their favour.
If you go back and watch that try as well, the one that you're talking about with the 2 touches, people will focus on the big parts of it, the passes and the line breaks, everything, but focus on the moment he decided to get immediately back up and chase hard. That's the moment the try happened. It was the effort that made the try happen. It was the not switching off. As I said, people will focus on the skill set, the speed, but it's actually the key to that try was Kinney not going and admiring his work and going, oh yeah, look how great I am. I did something really well. It's immediately getting to his feet and sprinting after the ball. That's what made the try. Like, it's just what I love so much about Kinney is his toughness, his effort. Like, sometimes you get caught up in seeing all the highlight reel plays that he does, and you forget about the fact that he's running it straight and hard at a forward pack that has Tarpany and Fisher-Harris in it. He's brave, he's tough, he's effort on effort. I just love it.
It's so disappointing that there isn't just another 5'8" available for New Zealand to pick, because I think, this is Peter Hiku's second game in this series. He's been forced to make 30 tackles in both of them, I'm tipping he'll have to make another 30 in the final as well. Like if you could shift Chance out there to take his spot and just defensively shore up that edge, geez, it'd make a big difference for this side.
Yeah, it wasn't Hiku's game, not a game of two halves, but like defence was not, the best. He had missed some tackles, but he did have some really good touches in attack.
Oh, he brings something 100%. If you could, like, even if you could find like a Jeremy Marshall-King, like I'd even be happy to play Phoenix at 5'8" and move Chance out to the centres, but they've just been decimated that they just can't find the guys to fill the jerseys.
Yeah, I mean they are really, really struggling for depth. Another guy in the first half wasn't great, but I thought Timoko showed a lot of fight to get back into the game and force his way back into it. Sean Johnson, he had 2 try assists, was really good. I just think, and he's had so many big moments this year, so it's not like he always does it. But just when he had that set where he could have gone for a drop goal and he didn't, I think that might have been where the game was lost. And as I said, he's won so many games for his side, so let's not pretend that he can't do it. I know there was a lot of people going, typical this. It's like, what do you mean typical? He's won heaps of games on, by making specific plays. But I do think that was a crucial error at a time in the game where he should have gone for a drop goal and he didn't, unfortunately.
I agree, and it really surprised me at the time.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny, like when you look back to the regular season, like one of the big knocks on Isaiah Cartella throughout the year was a number of times when they could have gone for goals and they didn't.
Yeah.
And he copped it left, right and centre. And then you get to, these big moments and Isaiah seemingly handles it better than a guy that's so experienced, he'd already fucking retired.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yep. And he'd done it so many times.
Yeah.
Like, he'd done it literally that in his last game he did it. Another guy I thought who was, outstanding and, almost flow on the radar a bit, but I thought Isaiah Papali'i was phenomenal. He had a try. He had 15 runs, 134 metres, 40 post contact, 2 tackle breaks, a line break assist, 4 offloads, 41 tackles and 3 misses. Man, when it comes to transfers, he has easily been the most underrated when it comes to talk of transfers. No one is talking about a Dally M back rower is going to the Panthers. Like, if you thought he was good in the Eel system, imagine what they're going to do to him in the Penrith system. Like, he is going to, if he plays in the back row, he might end up being the Dally M back row of the year again. If he plays in the middle, he genuinely might be a sniff for the front row of the year. Like, that's how much talent this guy has. I cannot believe it hasn't been talked about more. You know what? I'm guilty of it too. I remember even talking about recruits, and when we're talking about Penrith, we were like, oh, they haven't really recruited that much. And I think someone had to tell me, oh, they did Isaiah Papali'i. And I was like, oh my God, they did too.
Well, Ivan was out there for this game, and I think he was the best Panther on the field for the Kiwis.
Mate.
I think he outplayed Fish, and I think he outplayed Scotty Sorensen, who had a pretty tough night out. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Ivan plays in.
I reckon he suits their middle forwards more because he is so fit. Because they say number one priority for recruitment is fitness. And I think that they've already got Sorensen on one edge. They've already got Martin on the other. Whereas the front row is still where there's a bit of, like, how will Smith go? How will, what's his name? Liam Henry go. Whereas I think Papali'i, with his fitness through the middle, I think he suits them to a T.
In saying that, like, I think back to when Scotty Sorensen used to play through the middle, and he was incredible there too as well.
Would you start him though? That's the only difference, I think. Like, I don't know how he would go starting in the middle, Sorensen. Whereas I could see Papali'i.
Oh yeah, but I wouldn't have him starting. I have him coming off the bench, Sorensen, and I'd probably have Papali'i off the bench too. I think I'd start with Lindsay Smith and Fish.
See, I think that he is going to be the starting pair with Leota.
Yeah, okay.
Again,
I mean, you can't go wrong either way.
I could be totally wrong, happy to. But if I was, let's say I was selecting the team today, like right now, before seeing anything, him and Leota as starting front row pairing for me would be, jeez. I'll tell you what, as an opposition, I'd be shitting myself. Going, fuck.
What a spot to be in that if Sorensen or Liam Martin get injured, like, oh, shit, we have to move our Dally M second row of the year out to his potential better position. It's crazy.
What about Penrith would have been like, oh, Tigers, you want to get rid of him? Oh, okay. Yeah, no worries. We'll take him. Oh, sorry, bro, but...
Yeah. Well, you spoke a lot about people not talking about it. It's because it hurts too much for me. So
okay,
that's why I haven't said a hell of a lot about it.
And without turning this into a Penrith thing, it's literally the first time they've had a crack at an established guy.
Yeah. Crazy. Incredible. there would be a little bit of frustration. Nikorima coming on with 15 minutes to go. I can only assume it's the defensive side of things. That's the only thing I can think of, because attack wise, he's going to offer more.
You'd have to. It's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah. What I will say with the Kiwi side is there wasn't a single player. There might have been players that didn't play the best, but there wasn't a single player that didn't rip in my opinion. I feel like they could all hold their head high when it comes to effort. It was just the errors in that first half. I think they were like 5 from 9 or 5 from 10. In the first 30 minutes, they had like 6 completed sets or something like that. If you got to 10 sets, all of a sudden it's only 12-0, you know?
Yeah. It's
just that first 20 minutes that absolutely killed them.
And once again, 10 years ago, you probably could have got away with
it,
but not anymore.
Yep, absolutely. Alrighty, that's the review done and doosted. Don't forget, guys, Aussie Footy Shorts, limited edition bloke Aussie Footy Shorts. Plus also, if you don't want the bloke footy shorts, we've got maroon, we've got blue, we've got the country bloke shorts that we've never done before. They've got pockets. They're high quality material. They're the best footy shorts in the country. Plus, they got hundreds of other designs. And also, you can do your own custom design footy shorts as well with you and mates. So go to Aussie Footy Shorts Instagram, give them a follow, and grab some Aussie Footy Shorts. Alrighty. In regards to other games, England has beaten Samoa. I know some people were a bit upset last time, but unfortunately, I didn't get up and watch the game, guys. When you can take some sleep-ins, when you've got a little one on the weekend, you take them. So I took it. But I did watch the highlights. I tell you what, the extended highlights, and look, unless he decided to just play one of the greatest games all time for like little 10-minute periods, Herbie Farnworth he's on track to win the Golden Boot. And I come to you with humble pie. I'm going to eat humble pie for the rest of my life, guys, because I remember a couple of years ago, I said Herbie Farnworth is a really good centre, a really consistent centre, but I wasn't sure whether he could take the next step to being literally one of the best centres in the game. And so for my entire life, I will eat humble pie with that. It was the worst take of all time, because right now, even though he is a back-to-back Dally M winning centre with 2 different clubs, even though he has in line to win a Golden Boot and gone on and killed it in these last 2 games against Samoa, I still think Herbie Farnworth is underrated to the wider audience of rugby league.
Don't forget as well, you left out there, Roasty's hottest 100 player of the year as well. It's a hell of a CV he's putting together.
A bloke that hot shouldn't be that good.
Yep.
I agree with you. I think he is underappreciated still.
I just think can you read his stats out for the last 2 games, please, Matty?
Off the dome, I got some of them here. 3 tries, 6 line breaks, 380 metres across 2 games at centre.
Bro, wow.
That's insane. I think he had 13 tackle breaks in the game yesterday. I think he had 6 the week before or something. That's ridiculous.
And winning Dally M centre, 2 different clubs, the only other bloke that's done that is Critter.
Yeah.
And look, Critter is one of the game's most beloved players, and rightly so. This is definitely not to take anything away from Critter, because you guys know we love Critter. But I don't think Herbie gets anywhere near the love that Critter does. And I understand that, Critter has won the premierships. I get all that. But when you just look at individually them playing and their stats and everything like that, Herbie doesn't. I still think he's underrated. I still think it. And I know he is rated. I'm not suggesting that no one rates Herbie Farnworth, but I think that, put it this way, he's on track to be one of the better centres of his generation. That's how good he is. And I don't think he gets talked about like that yet. Granted, he's got a long way to go to do that, but he's still only 24 or 25, I think.
So, first game, he got a try, 204 metres, 2 line breaks, a try assist and a line break assist. And then over the weekend, he got two tries, 177 metres, 4 line breaks, a try assist, and 13 tackle breaks.
That's actually insane. Actually insane.
Yep.
And he's done it also in a grand final. He played incredibly well against the Penrith Panthers in the grand final for the Broncos.
And that's the thing as well. He wins Dally M centre in a team that is high-flying and they make it to a grand final and everything. He moves clubs to a team that misses the 8. He's got a teenager as his halfback on his edge.
And he got injured for a little bit too.
Yeah, and he got injured.
Yep.
Still gets it.
How old is he? 24. So, he's still got another at least 8 years of footy left in him.
Yep.
If he keeps playing like this, he'll go down. The only thing that will work against him is the whole Origin thing. I'll put it this way.
Well, it already is working against him.
Yeah, it already is. That already is working against him. But if he was playing for Queensland or New South Wales, he would 100% be selected in either side.
Yep.
And so, yeah, look, when I say he is still underrated, guys, let me be clear. That's not like Tupou underrated, where what I mean is that I just don't think even people that rate him, I don't think they rate him highly enough.
So it'll be interesting, like we're all having this conversation with the Brisbane Broncos at the moment. You know, do you keep Staggs? Do you keep Selwyn? Imagine if he was still there.
There'll be no conversation.
It's him.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? What did Broncos miss the most last year? I'd argue it was him.
Yep.
I'd argue even you could make it it'd be between him and Flegler. And I think that Paddy and Haas can kind of pick up the slack with Flegler to a degree. We still miss Flegler, don't get me wrong. But what did we miss? We missed an outside back that got through a ton of work, coming out of our own end and made little errors. That's Herbie Farnworth. Yep. And that's me. I come to you humbly as a humble servant, Herbie, that I made the wrong call. Like the worst call in my bloke career has been that call. Worst call. So I eat humble pie every day for that. My missus serves it to me and says, why aren't you as hot as him?
Eat up.
You piece of shit.
I thought one other little talking point to come out of the game. Once again, I only watched highlights as well. But Blaze Tungy playing 5'8", 16 tackles, 7 missed. Not something that Ivan will be accepting.
I think I trust the Penrith system that when he gets there, it might take a little bit of time. I got faith in that system is so unbelievable that he actually might turn into one of the better. Put it this way, like remember Mitchell Moses when he first started? I know this is two different clubs, but it might be a bit Mitchell Moses areas that put enough work into it, he'll be able to work it out, I think.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how that goes, to watch that transition.
This Blaze Tulungi at the Penrith Panthers, like, truly could be anything. Truly could be anything. Because we know he's an athlete. I cannot wait to see. Massive congratulations to England. I can't wait until the Ashes because it looks like it's going ahead. The noise around it and everything seems to be lined up. Now, granted, Kiwis need to beat PNG. And, like, PNG, like, you can't count PNG out.
Yeah.
I know the Cook Islands, they actually showed a lot of fight, and at half time they weren't that far behind.
Yep.
But PNG have been pretty solid for 2 games now.
They got nothing to lose to.
Like, and just like, you know, Tonga coming out and having that crazy first half. I'm not saying that, you know, PNG could have that crazy of a first half, but we know that they have enough, like, there's enough love and passion for their country, similar to Tonga, where they are playing for their country. It means everything. You just never know. And also, the Kiwis could be battered and bruised. It was a very physical game. Yeah. Whereas you could argue PNG, although still solid games, definitely not as physical as the Kiwis have played.
Yeah. They've cruised through and won them both pretty comfortably.
Yeah,
so they've got a bit left in the tank. Hey, just back on the Herbie thing, fair to say, is there anyone outside of these 3 players that you think is in the conversation for the Golden Boot? Herbie, AFB, and Turbo are the 3 that I've probably got floating around at the moment.
Maybe Tamalolo, because he was pretty good in first game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have, at the moment, it would be between Herbie, Turbo, and AFB. Right now, I would have Turbo just ahead only, and I know English fans are going to get upset about this, only because I do believe Samoa right now aren't playing as well as Kiwis and Tonga.
Yeah.
Now, if Herbie came out and did that against Kiwis in Australia, absolutely Herbie would be by far and away. Mm-hmm. But in saying that, if you're going into it just going individual performances, you take away who they've played against, you'd have to say Herbie is ahead of everyone.
I reckon Herbie will get it.
By a margin.
Yeah.
I just think that the Kiwi side and the Tongan side would probably beat Samoa by pretty much the same amount that England would.
Yep.
At this stage, because Samoa are missing quite a few players too, aren't they?
Yes.
No Critter, you know.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't want to take anything away from the England victory. I really don't. But, and I know before English fans tear my head off, your own coach was quoted after the first game, if you played like that, you wouldn't even challenge Australia. He literally was quoted saying that. Could you get the quote up so that I'm protected?
Yeah.
Just need to protect it because English fan can be quite passionate.
You know, when do you reckon the last Australian won the Golden Boot?
This was going to be my big point. It's always a bit
like give it to someone else to kind of help the game a bit.
Yeah.
Any
the
guesses?
last Australian to win it?
Yep. And the year?
17? Nah, that would have been a Tongan.
I reckon it's 17.
17.
17.
Yep. It was Cam Smith.
And who's he?
Since then, we've had 2023 Fisher Harris, 2022 Manu, 20 and 21 not awarded due to COVID, and before that was. Can anyone guess who it was in 2018? It was in. You probably won't get it.
Was it an English player?
It was.
Oh, I
Charlie?
remember this one. This was a winger.
It was a winger.
Yeah.
Wasn't
Well, not
Was
well.
it Mackinson?
Tommy Mackinson.
Tommy Mackinson.
Yeah.
I remember the controversy around that.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a.
The Golden Boot is awarded nowadays just for international matches.
Yeah, that's the only sample size they take, is international matches. Right. Yep. So
because I remember like when we were kids, it used to be like take it all into consideration from memory. Like it was a much bigger thing than
Well, I think it was when Sean Johnson won it. There was, that's what people didn't realise. It was just the international games, where I think a lot of people thought that it was
everything.
Yeah,
that was 2014 that he won it. Anyway, interesting to see. I think it's got to be down to those three. And look, if it's just based on raw numbers and raw stats, maybe it will be Herbie that gets it, because they make for pretty good reading.
So here's the quote. So this is Wayne, which I assume is the coach.
Sean Wayne.
Sean Wayne. This is the exact quote. "We need to be better. If I'm honest, that performance wouldn't trouble Australia. So don't come for me, England. Don't come for me. I'm just saying what he said."
Yep.
But I will say, I think England, I know that the World Cup is the real disappointing thing for England, because if they hadn't dropped that game against Samoa, they make a World Cup final, and it would show you how far they've come as a nation. Because I actually think England have come substantial distance as a country in rugby league over the last 5 years. I really do. Like I put it this way, Australia versus England, I'm not going into that game going, it's going to be a 13-plus game. Yeah. I think that England have shown, especially with the World Club Challenge, how far the game has come over there. I know that they're dealing with some stuff in some of the lower tier teams, but in regards to their top tier sides and their England side, I think they really would give Australia a bit of a nudge. Not how they played against Samoa in game one, but at their best, they absolutely would give Australia a nudge, and that's why I am so keen to see an Ashes. What's going to be interesting, if we go and play them in England, they do tend to get a few calls here or there, which also does even up the, home teams seem to get the calls, whether it's in Australia or in England. Mm-hmm. That makes it even more interesting as well. So, mate, I can't wait for Australia to play England. Just
having a look at the Golden Boot winners over the years. How good's this 4-year stretch from 2000 to 03? Fittler, Johns, Stacey Jones, Lockyer.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good. That's crazy. The last Australian winner is Cameron Smith. It took our GOAT of all time to win it. Mass congratulations to England, and I can't wait to play them. I think it's going to be a bloody good clash. Anything else, guys? Obviously, we spoke about PNG beat Cook Islands. Get a chance to watch that. I just watched the extended highlights. Cook Islands started really well. Good try in the corner there. Hung on there. If anything, Cook Islands, I know eventually it ended up being 42-20, but for Cook Islands to score 20 points and hang in the game for at least just over a half of it, and it wasn't until, I think Tedavano got sent off for 10 in the bin, and that's kind of when PNG ran away with it. I think that's pretty good with Cook Islands when you look at the roster they're working with. I mean, Alex Glenn came out of bloody retirement. They're literally coach was playing. Yeah. Assistant coach, because I think Carmichael Hunt's the head coach.
Yep.
I think Cook Islands deserve a massive rap. I really do.
100%. I'll tell you, just from that game, I just had a look at it then. Lockie Lamb signed a contract over there until the end of 2025. So he's another one that, I'd love to see him come to the NRL.
He was good yesterday. Scored
Nenai McDonald.
Another 2 tries for him yesterday.
He had like 13 tackle breaks or something. It was mental.
Yep. Ran for almost 200 metres. Every game that he's played so far this season's been, this international season's been, certainly eye catching. If he puts in a good performance against the Kiwis this weekend, we were speaking before about maybe a club might have a crack at him. Yeah. He's playing some pretty good footy. Obviously the standard of opposition he's been playing hasn't probably been world class, but it's been decent enough. And this weekend he'll play the Kiwis. If he puts in another good performance there, I wouldn't be surprised if.
Well, he did it against Fiji, and they got none of their players killed it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And they're gun first graders in the NRL. Nenai McDonald, 2 tries, a try assist. 16 runs, 191 metres, 49 post contact, 11 tackle breaks, a line break assist, 3 offloads, 4 tackles, 0 misses. How old's Nina McDonald? Because if he's like
30, I think.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if he's like 27 or something, you could
30.
30, okay,
30.
a bit old
They beat
now.
in 2014 or something like that.
Yeah.
Also had another try, a bit controversially taken off him. Could have been a hat trick. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. So, yeah, like I think that PNG, that try from Lamb, left foot, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. Bit of gas there. So, yeah, good win for PNG. I think what Cook Islands is building is, I think they're one of the smaller nations, even population-wise as well. Carmichael Hunt, Alex Glenn, all those boys, Brad Takarangi, going back, doing what they're doing is bloody good work. Like, it's really good for the game.
Yep.
Think about how many young Cook Island players now will consider rugby league because of these guys that would be over there working for free. I think they deserve a lot of appreciation for sure.
Yep.
But yeah, can't wait for England next year. Oh my God. I would love to go and tour with the Australian side and create content with them if they were to go in the Ashes. I'll try and reach out to the NRL and see if there's something that we can do together, because I think that'll be a really good way to re-engage the Ashes rugby league, this young, 18 to 45-year-old demographic.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it is really good to send journalists over there. Like, there is definitely a place for it. But imagine the insights you could get from social media with someone traveling with them. Like, it would be something that's never been done before.
Imagine a bloke
in rugby league.
Bloke Ashes too. Us in our little, green and gold jackets. You with one of those little caps with a little tassel coming off it, the little skipper's cap.
Stop it! You're getting me too excited.
Yeah.
I definitely would love to go over and create just content every day content. There is a talk from like Mal and rugby league about getting passion back in that jersey, and I'm not suggesting that we have anything to do with that. It's like the players and the buy-in, but part of that is getting people to buy back in. And how do you do that? It's with content.
Yep.
When Brad Fittler took over New South Wales and got passion back in that Blues jersey, a lot of it was him going out and interacting with the rugby league audience. And that's why I think with this Ashes tour, it's like, bring the audience with you, bring Aussies with you, show them what it means to be in the jersey. I do think there is a little bit of a disconnect between the Aussie audience and the Aussie team that could be kind of bridged. Anyway, I'm talking about shit that shouldn't be on the podcast probably, but whatever.
Leave it in. Let's get over there.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Reach out. Alrighty, it is time now for Beaks Bag, brought to you by the DMP shirts. That's right, tonight, New South Wales time, 6 p.m. Make sure to be there, guys. Best way to support the platform. If you've been umming and ahhing and you're thinking, okay, like I do listen to a lot of bloke content, I do listen to a lot of Hello Sport content, and haven't really, purchased this or that, grab a t-shirt tonight. We'd really appreciate it. Plus, they're bloody good shirts, guys. Really high quality material. I absolutely love them. Absolutely love them. So grab them at bloke.shop tonight. Also, you can join the Bloke Club, and we actually send you a text message when they go live. We actually also have real big plans for the Bloke Club next year. Huge plans. I can't wait to unveil them to you. Anyway, Beaks Bag this week is, don't forget, leave a question in the YouTube comment section. You must be subscribed to our YouTube channel. Each week we choose one question and we give them a Bloke $50 gift voucher. So leave it in the comment section of the YouTube channel. Alrighty, this is from Deflect. With the NRL hitting Vegas again next year, where else do you think the NRL should aim to expand and promote the game? Look, I think that in regards to expanding and promote the game, I think we just need to focus in on Australia first. Australia and the Pacific nations around the Oceania kind of area. I think that's where we need to just hammer home. But I think at the moment, right now, it's about how do we continue to grow within Australia to make sure that we stave off AFL coming in and obviously taking areas of the country that we could potentially take. So I think the main focus, it's great. The Vegas round is great because not only does it make round one such a big deal, and in a small chance that it does grow in America, that'd be incredible. But I think our main focus has to be in Australia at the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree, especially with new clubs and whatnot coming in over the next few years. I think we just need to worry about our own backyard. But I absolutely love Vegas. I think it's enough, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vegas is a great trip, for any fan or whatever on the fence to get over there. Go and do it. One of the great, alongside Magic Round, one of the best things I think you can do as a fan. I think you're right. Got to expand the game locally a little bit more first. Love to see a team in Perth. That's obviously the one that's been kicked around a little bit. Not so much from like a fan engagement perspective, but one region of the world I've always been a little bit surprised like there's not more rugby league, just because they play so much rugby union there, is South Africa. And they were actually good, I think, in like the early 2000s, not like really good, but made a World Cup or two, but there hasn't been a lot of like development there since. But that's always surprised me. They probably punched a little bit below their weight just because they must have so many guys with the skills and like the basic kind of understanding of how it all works. But I wouldn't be spending too much time to go out of my way to develop it there. But I've always been interested that they might not play a bit more.
What I'm really interested in is England. Like, if we just had enough money to really push the game in England, so like just to really give it a good push, I think that you could make inroads. I really do. And look, I understand that there's probably has been the case that there has been people with big money that have tried it before, but I look at Australia and I feel like a big reason why rugby union in Australia struggles is because they already have the product of the NRL there fighting against it. And so, the audience has spoken. I know there are some people that do enjoy watching union more than league, but majority of people in Australia, when they have a choice between NRL and union, they choose the NRL because they believe it's a more exciting product. And I just wonder, like, if you were to somehow get enough money in England and even in France to a degree, because there was a period there where even south of France was like, rugby league was huge, absolutely huge. I wonder if you could, you'd have to spend like tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, but I wonder if you could somehow introduce countries that love union, similar to South Africa, but I wouldn't go South Africa because I feel like they are so into union. Could you make inroads and go, we actually have a more exciting product, which is called rugby league? I wonder if that would be the case. But you'd need just so much money. My first target, if I was to have like, $100 million to spend to promote the game outside of Australia, I'd probably go really hard in England to try and to get that core audience to grow, because they've already got a taste of it. They fill out in grand finals, they fill out stadiums, and big games, they fill out
Old
stadiums.
Trafford, they play.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see what happens. Alrighty, now it's time for just a question that I wanted to ask you boys. What is the best sound in sport? The best sound in sport. So I was watching some Sportsbet content and they asked this question. The best sound in sport. I will start. And this is gonna upset a few people. But for me personally, the best sound in sport is the sound of a soccer ball hitting the back of a net. Now you guys probably don't know what that sound is.
Yeah. Can you just do it again?
No, just wait. No, just wait. No, wait. I can do this. Oh my God, what a goal!
Oh.
Wow.
Best sound in sport?
You won't know it's the NRL off season, but there will be signs. Very good. Bit of ASMR there.
Yeah, you like that?
I didn't mind that at
changing
all.
things up here at Plug. I told you to stay tuned. I told you to subscribe. That's what we're doing, baby.
Yep.
Roo, what's your best sound in sport?
That's rattled the shit out of me. I think a good golf swing.
Oh, the
Yes.
I can't do it. You do it. We've all got to do the sound.
Oh. Get in the hole. Yeah, not bad.
Not bad. I like that.
Not bad. Honourable mention to Let's Get Ready to Rumble. By commentator.
Yeah.
That's not bad. But for me personally, as a big cricket nuffy, I think when you hear a stump get cartwheeled out of the ground, and then the crowd, preferably the home crowd, is in favour of the bowling team there, and they just lose their mind. That for me is probably it. And it goes a little something like gadunk.
A little bit like that.
Yeah, the gadunk. And if it gets a couple of rotations as well, and you can kind of hear it getting further away from the mic and just like, knocking around on the ground, that's That's what I'm at. That's cricket porn for me.
Okay, Matty.
I'm very similar to you, Hammy, but I'm going to go much more specific. So I like the stump cartwheeling out, but specifically in England, because nothing to do with the English team, mostly because for some reason their setup, their audio, whatever, it sounds so much better. Like go watch Glenn McGrath highlights from 2005, it sounds amazing. But then even more like towards against England, when you do it, when an Australian bowler bowls someone out in England, it's the best sound you can hear, because not only did you hear the stumps cartwheeling out, you hear the whole crowd just deflate.
Silence.
Which is just the best.
There's a good example of those England acoustics. Unfortunately, it was an Australian batter that got out. But you might even be able to insert it in over the vision here. Simon Jones, I think, bowls Michael Clark, and he doesn't play a shot, just leaves it. It makes the perfect noise.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Another good sound, I think, is just a long rally in tennis. Just and it almost gets into that rhythm, and you just get hypnotized by the sound back and forth. I think that's also, and that's come from a guy that not a huge tennis guy, but when we do, when Barty won the Oz Open, just some of the stuff she did there was unbelievable. Yeah. But let us know in the comment section, what is the greatest sound in sport? Another one is F1 cars, just what about, you going to say something, Matty?
I've got an honourable mention, and this is not going to go down well with anyone, but in the AFL, because the clock goes up and you don't really know when it's going to end, the final siren at the MCG in an AFL grand final is always very iconic.
Look, I got to admit, I'm with you. And I watch one game of AFL a year, and I don't even watch all of it. I watch the last quarter. When you hear that, because then you see on the news, they always replay that. They do that really well, I got to admit.
Little underrated one for me, and he does it on the piss incredibly well when he goes, rock infringement. Nails it every time.
Rock infringement.
Most hated noise is when I hear a ref go, milking. Hate it, because they're never milking. I'm like, what do you mean milking? He's in a head friggin' lock. What are you talking about, milking? Jesus. And also, like, when they're not milking and they're getting rissoled, you're basically calling them like an actor.
Yeah.
milking. But anyway, that is some of the favourite sounds. Also, let us know what the worst sound is in sport. Got any worst sound, boys? Worst sound in sport?
One I've got to mention, I know Timmy will be very upset if we don't, the horn down in Canberra.
The horn. Wait, do that again.
It's real theatre of the mind stuff. I feel like I'm there at GIO Stadium.
Just forgot the Viking clap. Let us know in the comment section the greatest sound in sport, and also the worst sound in sport as well. Anyway, let's get into some transfer talk. Okay, Addo-Carr let go by the Bulldogs. Okay, so this was a statement from the club. The club views a combination of the failed drug test and subsequent lack of transparency as serious breaches of Josh's contractual obligations and our club's standards. Supporting our players remains a fundamental priority for the club, with comprehensive welfare programs that go well beyond just football. While we always stand by our players through difficult times, we can only do this effectively when there is complete trust and transparency. And then the Fox has come out and he's kind of thanked everything, and he's upset that it ended that way, but also said he's grateful to have been a part of this rebuild at the Bulldogs. He also said the truth will come out to a degree. Matty, could you please find that quote? But essentially has come out and said, the truth. So I'm interested to see what that is, because this whole situation still is very strange and weird, because the Fox he is certain that he did not take anything. He is unsure how that got in his system.
That was the exact quote. It was, I know the truth and that will come out.
Yeah. So anyway, regardless of that, I think I understand where the Dogs are coming from with the whole situation where he's failed it. He was driving. The whole story back to them sounds weird. But if the Fox truly believes he didn't take anything, then also it's kind of like you'd feel hard done by, because you're like, so anyway, it's a weird situation. Now, first of all, I hope that he learns from this situation, he bounces back, all that kind of stuff. I guess Will he end up at the Dragons? You know, where do you think that he will land in the NRL next year, or do you think that it might take a bit before he comes back into it?
I think he'll be at the Dragons next year.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a really good get for them.
Because he's 29 years old.
Yeah. He's got plenty to offer still.
So he's still got quite a lot left in his in the tank. Again, it's just a matter of like, it's just so weird because he feels he didn't have it in his system. But if he did have it in his system, then you'd hope that there is some kind of punishment and I guess rehab's the wrong word, but a path back to making the situation better, right, to a degree. Because at the moment, what has he been fined by the NRL?
I believe so.
And he's missed what?
He's missed one game, and I think he got a 4-game suspension.
So, okay, he got a 4-game suspension, and then Trindle got 6-game suspension?
Trindle's was a bit more difficult because...
I know it's different because he came out and he told the truth, all that, but how many games did he miss?
I'll check.
If it is the case that it's around the same, then, okay, I understand that. Then if it's around the same amount of suspension as Trindle got, granted, I know it's worse than Trindle's because of the weirdness of how it all happened. But what I mean is if he did fail a roadside drug test, so there has to be a punishment of sorts. But if that is being handed down by the NRL and they're happy with it and they feel that's enough, then that's enough. But yeah, I think he probably does end up at the Dragons next year.
It is really disappointing because of just the role that he played at Canterbury. I sort of think when I'm reading comments and whatnot, I think people are sort of forgetting the state Canterbury were in when he arrived. He was the one that really did turn the tide there.
It was the first big signing that they got during the darkest times.
Yeah, and it's just the sort of personality that Josh Addo-Carr is, the influence he's had there. Even before Stephen Crichton arrived and all this stuff, I remember the first few games of watching Fox there. I could hear him in the lounge room going, "He's a fucking winger."
Yeah, talking all the time,
the whole time.
Just heaps of leaderships. And so I hope, and I know Doggies fans are quite reasonable in the sense that, granted, he stuffed up. I'm not trying to take away from that, but please don't mix that in with all the good he's done for the club. Don't let, his error at the end here isn't a reflection of all the positive stuff that he has done for the Bulldogs club. And I think most Bulldogs fans can get that. I think they understand the situation. They've got to part ways. But I do think a lot of Bulldogs fans appreciate what the Fox has done for the club. I could be wrong, but I think so.
Trindle missed 5 games.
5 games. So it's about the same. So 4 games. So
sorry. Yes, 4 games.
So 4 games. So,
yep.
I mean, to be honest, you'd probably expect, I guess, Fox to miss around at least the same. Maybe the monetary fine has been substantially bigger, and that's where they feel the punishment is. But anyway, the punishment has been handed out. Could you get out exactly what they punished him with, please, Matty? I think he ends up at the Dragons. But there are, for example, what about the West Tigers? Would you consider?
I think we've got too many wingers now.
Okay.
At the club, if it had been before we got Skelton from the Dogs.
Could you move Taruva into the centres and have Addo-Carr on the wing, maybe?
Potentially you could. Potentially you could for the right price, though.
Yeah.
I think. I think we need to go after some middle forwards. Really, is where we're lacking at the moment. But it seems like all the chat is that he'll go to the Dragons, and that we spoke about before. Rounds out their backline pretty nicely, doesn't it?
Could Parramatta be a landing option?
Yeah, I was thinking Eels as well, potentially. So you have him and, I was going to say Lomax, but so you got him and Simonson maybe on the wings, and then you got Lomax, Pensini in the centres, potentially.
Does Lomax, will he definitely play centre?
I think he's been promised that when he signed.
It sounds that he's playing centre.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. What do you, Matty?
So Addo-Carr, 4-game suspension and fined $15,000.
Okay. And Trindle was...
See, yeah, the Trindle one is tricky. I'm gonna keep finding it because they checked him into rehab, and then I don't know if there was an actual number
monetarily fine.
But I will
look. Regardless, the punishment's been handed out by people that know far more about the situation than us. So it is what it is. It's done. Okay. Eels is interesting because then that backline all of a sudden looks, and surely they've got cash. Surely they've got cash.
Have to.
And the whole yarn around we need speed in our outside backs. Well, there's your speed right there. It's Josh Addo-Carr. There was some whispers about the Broncos, but I don't think they've got the money to do it. And also, I think obviously with their current situation with Ezra, I don't think it would be a good look right now. Yeah, I think he lands at Dragons. I really do. And I think he'd be outstanding get for the Dragons.
Yeah, I think it'd be a really good get for him.
So you'll go Val in the centres, Sully in the centres, Fox, and then Tui Pelotu on the wing, Gutho at the back there. That obviously leaves Sloan out, unfortunately. But that's rugby league, you know. And, you know, Sloan has the talent to fight his way back in, so it's up to him.
Not a bad guy to have, you know. If you're one injury away and you got to bring Sloan in.
Oh, mate, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe the Gutho contract is a 2-year contract, and by that stage, Sloan will still only be 23 or 24, and he's good to go. Yeah. So we'll see. Okay, Terrell May, we've already spoken about him a little bit, but Terrell May has been reportedly told that he can sign a contract elsewhere. Now, May has said on Instagram it has nothing to do with off-field issues, and Crichton has also come out in his defence and said, you know, all these rumours going out about off-field stuff, they're not true. Now, where could Terrell May end up? Look, if I'm the Tigers, I am absolutely on the phone to him, immediately.
100%. Well, we were talking about this over the weekend, and I reckon he'd be a great get. We need a bit more, you know, sort of like mongrel in the middle third. I think I'd love someone. I still think we'd need 2. I'd still have to get a guy like him and a guy like Corey Jensen. I reckon, you know, but we've seen how damaging Terrell May can be this year. He was probably I'd say the Roosters' best front rower over the course of the year, and that's exactly one area that we've been lacking in. Just, you know, damaging runner, big body. I think he'd be a great get. I'd be very happy to have him at the Tigers.
Yeah, he's exactly what you need. Just big, young-ish forward. Like when it comes to forward age, he's 25 or so. Got a good offload, got an incredible motor. You're going to get bang for buck for him because he can play big minutes.
Yep.
It'll just be about making sure that the club has a good enough culture to get the best out of him.
Well, without knowing, you know, we saw Crichton go to the Dogs and become the captain right away. I would be amazed if Jerome Luai doesn't come and become the captain right away. I'm not sure what their
Jerome would know him as well.
Yeah, I don't know what their relationship's like, but I would sense that they may have played a bit together, or, you know, back out at Penrith at some point. Yep. So maybe having Jerome Luai as a leader there could be a good way to kind of keep him, you know, having a positive impact on the culture as well.
Yeah.
Without Renson repeating, Parramatta would be another good landing spot, I think, with Regan leaving. Like, I do think they are a middle short.
Yeah, and it is out west, so he's closer to home as well. I'm just trying to look at some of these other clubs that, you know, could afford him. Like, really, what's going to be beneficial for him is that there are going to be so many clubs that would be willing to pay, let's just say, 500, 600K, that'll actually probably push his price up to around the 750 mark. I think he eventually will land on a 750K per year deal.
I think he will too.
Yeah. Which is you know, if anything, I know it would suck getting tapped on the shoulder and say you can sign with someone else, but if the reports are true that he's on around 500K, it's a massive win for him. Yeah. Look, I understand he may feel at the Roosters he could potentially win a premiership, but if they've told you to go, then that is what it is. And if you go to a club that's a little bit further away but could grow into that spot, like be a part of that rebuild, that could also be just as exciting. I'm just trying to think of some other clubs that could use a guy like him.
Is there a world where if a Ryan Pappenhausen was to leave, the Melbourne Storm could make a play for him?
I think that they've made a play. Stefano is probably their guy. I'll be surprised if...
We'll take him. They can have Stefano. We'll take him.
I'd be surprised if he would move down to Melbourne as well. My understanding is there was actually a little bit of interest in Melbourne a few years ago with Terrell, probably like 3 years ago or so. And I think that at that time he didn't want to move down to Melbourne. But, man, him in that Melbourne system, oh my God.
It would be interesting to see, like, if, depending on where Ben Hunt lands, like if he doesn't land at the Dolphins without knowing what this situation is with Tom Flegler, could the Dolphins maybe make a play for him?
Yeah, I mean, at the Dolphins, they could definitely use him, especially considering they're quite light on in the front row at the moment.
Jesse Bromwich, we don't know what's going to happen to Tom Flegler. Tavita's obviously left too, so there's,
space there. I'm just trying to think another play. So Bulldogs, I reckon with the Bulldogs situation, the fact that they've already had the talk and both parties have said, no, I want to stay at the Roosters, and the Bulldogs have said, okay, well, it's all good. I don't see that coming back around. I think the Bulldogs are turning into a kind of club of like, if we can't make it work the first time, then why would we come back into the chat? Looking at someone else, you've got the Tigers. I mean, I know they've been linked to everyone, but could the Dragons use another front rower? Like, I don't know whether they've got the money or not, but why not?
Like, the reality is he's that talented that there isn't a club that couldn't do with him.
Yep.
Like, he'd be a good signing anywhere.
Another place where I reckon could be good for him, I don't know whether he'd do it, if you got him up to North Queensland, away from everything, I don't know if he'd want to live up north, but away from everything as the main front rower, because McLean's got to be, what you reckon, last year, you'd say?
I'd say so.
Or close to. He's exactly what they need right now. Is they need a young, fresh front rower coming up, youngish. They've got McIntyre at the moment, but just a big body that can replace a guy like McLean. And Terrell May's the perfect fit for that. Just a matter of whether he'd be willing to move all the way up to North Queensland. And if they were interested, maybe they're just not interested. But he's a guy, when I look at a rosters and people that need big front rowers, it's the Cowboys.
Yeah, for sure.
Cowboys haven't re-signed McLean for next year yet.
Wow. I wonder what their front row rotation is next year. Like, who would be, if he's, let's say he's not there next year, because at the moment he's not signed. Because he's not signed.
Well, you're probably looking at Sam McIntyre starting.
Which I don't mind. I actually like that. But then you've got him, you've got Taumalolo starting, and then the rotation off the bench would be
McKaylee. Tom McKaylee.
Yep. He could push his way into that. I guess that's really the next man up.
The most,
Yeah. Which ironically he does play a little bit similar to Terrell May with the offload, big body.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll see. Look, I tell you what, when it comes to options, he's going to have as many options as he wants. All right, breaking news whilst we're here. According to Sydney Morning Herald, Rugby Australia Chief Executive Phil Wall sat down for a meeting with the Tricolours boss, the Roosters, last month to reportedly consider loaning Sua'ali'i back to the Roosters in 26, in between the 2015 British and Irish Lions Tour and the 2027 Rugby World Cup. Sorry, 2015, 2025.
2025, I think that's a typo.
Yeah, in between the 2025 British and Irish Lions Tour and the 2027 Rugby World Cup. Wow. That is... look, I brought this up and I thought this was like me almost being... It was a reality, but I just thought like it was such a small chance. I thought they weren't in this bad a shape. But that suggests to me that they are trying... They can't afford to pay his bloody massive contract. Why else would you want to loan him back? When you would want Sua'ali'i playing as much union as possible.
Yeah, 100%.
That's crazy.
Well, it's got to be a money thing, hasn't it? Because why else would you go the biggest asset that we've got in the game or that we've brought across in between the two biggest tournaments? Like that's where you want to be surely building reps, momentum, building combinations. You can go back if you want for the right price. That just, it has to be a money
Surely,
thing.
like how dire of a situation are we in where heading into a World Cup, we aren't our star player making him play as much rugby as possible?
What a dreadful look.
That is crazy. And it looks legit. Like that doesn't just, why would that just come out?
Yeah. I mean, like, as you said, you want to give him as much time to get used to it as he can. Like, I know there'll be people, he's played in high school. It's a World Cup.
It's a freaking home World Cup. What benefit do you get by giving him back to league other than you don't have to pay his contract for that year?
Yeah.
Wow. That is, I feel terrible for Sua'ali'i because, I mean, he'll play a few games and he'll be getting huge offers from overseas and that. But the fact that they, what's even crazier is his contract gets bigger. He gets paid $2 million a year in his last 2 years.
Yeah.
And he's an option in his favour. The fact that they can't afford it now.
Imagine too if he goes there for the first year and he hates it. He's coming back to the Roosters. Like, how do you know he's going to come back? You would assume the money wise, but if he absolutely hates it over there, there's every chance he might.
Well, I'm thinking that they actually, looking at this suggests to me that if Rugby Union could give him back to league today, they would. Because they can't afford him.
Yeah.
Because if you are fully all in and, it's him playing for Australia is the highest priority and you've got no other pressures, there's no way you have this conversation. Come back for a year and then come play a World Cup. That is incredible. As I said, I thought there was a small chance that Rugby Australia may not be able to afford him, but this says to me that they genuinely cannot afford Sua'ali'i.
Yeah.
I guess what happens from here? What do you reckon happens? Because if you're Sua'ali'i and this has come out, you all of a sudden saying, holy shit, I'm sure that they're assuring him we can pay you, we've got the money, but surely his management's sitting there going, uh-oh, like they may not have the money to pay us in 2 years, 3 years.
Just about as big a red flag as you could possibly have.
Possibly have.
Yeah, well, to the point we just spoke about other players, and he signed the contract. He's entitled to stay there and cash in and get, everyone thought at the time it was a jaw-dropping amount of money. Well, they agreed to it, so he's well within his rights to just stick there, take it, and then come back up.
They declare bankruptcy, he's not getting his money. That's if you're his manager, you're sitting there going, it's not just a matter of like them going, we don't want to pay this deal. It's, oh my God, they genuinely might not have the cash to pay.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to. I think based on the fact they've got a home British and Irish Lions tour, of which they're all sold out well in advance of a year out, and then it's a home World Cup over here. I reckon that, they might not be in the best position.
I think they're already 30 million in debt.
Yeah, well, the Rebels are chasing for 30 million, aren't they?
Can you get how much the Union's in debt? I actually think they are substantially in debt. So all those things they're selling out, that's paying back debt.
Yep. Yeah, I still think,
they can pull it together?
Yeah, well, at least that much. I don't think they can get to that kind of level, but not a great kind of sign for him. If he was considering, I want to go over there, see what it's like, and then maybe I'll stay and be a Union guy forever, like stuff like this, you'd be like, maybe I'll just get in, get out.
See, I think that I get real worried if I'm a manager that they're even going to have the money to do it. And that's the last thing you want to be doing. If they were to get to a point where they had to declare bankruptcy, chasing that up is like absolute nightmare stuff. Again, I want to be really clear, Union fans. I do not want that to happen. Like, I think rugby union being strong in Australia is a bloody good thing. I like watching the Wallabies play. I have no dislike for rugby league at all. I know there are some people that really buy into the rugby league union wars and that. Like,
this doesn't make any sense to go in between the two most important parts of your time in that sport. They're already trying to offload you to go back where they got you from. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
From a strategic, the only thing is just a financial, situation.
If you're other Wallabies watching this play out too, surely you're just gonna be like, what the fuck? But especially if he comes for a year, they let him go back for the year before the World Cup. He walks back in and he's just automatically picked. Like, mate, there's got to be blokes that wouldn't be sweet with that, surely.
Mm.
Yeah. What message does that send them who are going away and trying to dominate their competition? Yeah. They go, it doesn't matter how good you go because this guy we've just given back to league, he's just going to come back in anyway.
So here's the article. Rugby Australia's debt ballooned by 17 million to almost 89 million during 2023, with the code's governing body drawing down 50 million of its 80 million facility with Pacific Equity Partners. So a facility is basically Pacific Equity Partners is saying you have this money that you can loan for us if you choose to. So they've taken 50 million of that. So Rugby Australia's 2023 annual report also sheds further light on the terms of the 80 million facility, including that it carries an interest rate of 6.25% above Australian bank bill swap reference rate. That swap reference rate is currently 4.3%, suggesting that the interest rate is 10.62% on their loan. That equates to an annual interest bill of more than $5 million. So that if they pay them back $5 million a year, they are just paying the interest back. They are not paying any of the loan back. So they currently owe $50 million. In other terms, the debt facility detailed in the annual report include that the PEP deal requires Rugby Australia to maintain the sum of cash and cash equivalents above 2.5 million and that the 80 million facility is repayable on the November the 28th. Holy. In addition to the $50 million drawdown on the PEP facility, Rugby Australia had other current and non-current liabilities of $38.9 million on its balance sheet for $88.9 million, up from $72 million a year earlier. While RA is expected to continue to draw down on the PEP facility throughout 24 and 25, they are hopeful that cash windfalls from British and Irish Lions Tour Australian 2027 men's rugby will be more than enough payback. So basically, they're banking on the tour and the World Cup to pay the $80 million back. According to the leaked document obtained by the Raw, this is all on the Raw, guys. PEP expects those two events that will generate a combined $225 million in cash flow for Rugby Australia. PEP's take on RA deal is that underwrote two major events which generate $200+ million Yeah, so by the time that rolls around, you're probably looking at about $100 million in debt. So that would, again, if it has to generate the $200 million. So you would be correct in saying surely they can find that because his contract all up, I think it's about $6 million.
Yeah.
So they would have to be able to find about $5 million in that, which actually, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's $5 million out of, let's just say they've got $80 million left sitting there, that means that out of your wage, you've got about 8% of it, of all of Rugby Australia's money is being given to one player. 8% of it.
With the clauses, it's upwards of 8 million.
Of 8 million?
Yeah.
10%.
Was this would be more than 8 million? Oh my God. That's 10% of all potential profit they could make. And that doesn't include, that doesn't even include all the money that they're going to have to spend in the meantime to get to that point. Bro. Holy. Because we're just talking about the 80 million, so they've already spent more than 50 million of that. By the time they get to the Rugby World Cup, they may have spent $120 million of that. Oh my God. So they could get to a point where they could make a profit. Let's just say they end up with $30 million in the bank of just straight profit after the Rugby World Cup, after they've paid back the facility from Pep. Sua'ali'i's contract alone in those last 2 years is $4 million of that, because it's $2 million per year. So that's 26 and 27. Oh man, that sucks, bro. That makes me feel sick for all the people involved. You never want to see people under this much stress and pressure. Far out. That's oh man. And then obviously Melbourne Rebels are suing them for $30 million as well. Oh man, I feel bad for everyone involved. I really do hope that the Rugby World Cup is way bigger than expectations, so they can find their way out of that. That's the last thing you'd want is rugby to fold.
Yeah.
Far out. That sucks. Yeah, I guess if I'm the manager, I am definitely sounding out ways to protect my client if this does all fall through. But that's crazy. Crazy. Anything else, boys?
Nah, just yeah. Hell of a headline when we saw it come through.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And where there's smoke, there's fire. Mark Bruce liked it too on Instagram. So
he did. He did. The great Boris. Yeah, wow. It's hopefully the World Cup is just huge for them. If they can somehow find a way to go deepish into the World Cup, it will literally save the sport.
Without pillaging too many rugby league players.
Mate, you know what? I'd almost consider lending them a couple just to get them out of it.
Mate, I would. Honestly, I know there's the whole league versus union, all that sort of shit. I want to see union be successful. I want this World Cup to be successful.
Yeah, bloody oath.
Yeah.
Seriously, if it took us lending them a couple of players just to keep everything going, I'd actually consider it. I seriously would, from a game perspective. I know they wouldn't do it. I know it's all crazy, but
I've even sat here and just thought, any league players that go over there for this World Cup, I won't hold it against them.
No.
But because one, the opportunity, but two, the money they'll get.
Well, maybe they won't.
Maybe they won't. Yeah.
No. Wow. Hopefully they turn around. Hopefully. As I said, I absolutely want this World Cup to be a smashing success. I want Union to go well as well. I really do. There is some things better, but Wallabies playing rugby at a high quality, high quality footy is a bloody good thing to watch. Alrighty, Tigers have offered Sullivan $900,000 to leave the club. That's just $300,000 over 3 years. The Daily Telegraph is reporting the Tigers are prepared to give Sullivan a monster payout of his $2.5 million contract if it's free salary cap space. Sullivan joined the Tigers on a 4-year deal to be the club's halfback, and he's only had 1 year of that deal done so far, so he's got another 3. Oh, man. This just I feel bad for, obviously, Sullivan. He's getting paid a big wicket, but, I'm sure he would have hoped that this worked out, and I'm sure he's getting constantly pressured to leave. But from a Tigers perspective, because the new administration didn't make this deal, geez, it just shows you that if you have the wrong people making the wrong decisions in key positions, it can completely smash your salary cap for years. for years.
Yeah, it can. Well, it's a decision they had to make because he's not getting a start. We've already got great depth there. Obviously, Galvin came through. Luai's there next year, and then we've got Fainu, who, he'd be the next cab off the rank now. So he's fourth at best in the pecking order. But yeah, it's a big deal, and it's going to be interesting to see how much they can get somebody else to pay of it.
That's the problem. I don't think there's many clubs at the moment that are going to want to pay anything really, like other than maybe minimum.
Yep.
So, what's the minimum? I think it's 175 grand a year. So you're going to go. The Tigers would have to end up paying like 400 or 500 grand a year.
Yeah.
I tell you what, it's one of the greatest deals of all time from his manager. Like the fact that he got that deal, wow. But yeah, I just don't see other clubs taking it up. And then you got Super League, but even them, it's a risk, like because he hasn't actually played that many consistent good games in first grade yet. There's no denying there is so much talent in Sullivan, but he just hasn't hit the heights that. And I do think it's a mixture of obviously, he's got to take responsibility for it too. But I do think it's also a mixture of at the Dragons at the time things weren't the best, and there were quite a few players that didn't kick on the way that they would have at a club that potentially with a better system. But he's been gone from the Dragons for a while now, so that has no longer does have anything to do with the Dragons. Like it's purely got to be at some point he's got to say, you know what, it's got to be me that makes the change, and it just hasn't seemed to happen yet.
Yeah, and
minimum's 120.
Minimum's 120.
Yep.
Yep.
And like he's had his opportunities too. That's the tough thing. Like every time he came in for the Tigers, and maybe I hold him in too high regard. I don't know, but I was disappointed with his performances this year.
Well, what I was surprised at, I don't expect him to do what he did coming through the grades where he was just electric. But what I was surprised at is that his effort just wasn't there. Like I didn't look at like a young player that was desperate to be in this first grade side. It looked like a guy that was a little bit older, had played maybe 150 games, had a big contract, and was kind of just going through the motions to a degree. Or there would be like 10 minutes of really good footy, and then he would just switch off for a little bit. And then 10 minutes, and that's like you see the signs of how brilliant Sullivan can be, but unfortunately, mate, I'd honestly make the argument that purely from a rugby league form perspective, the big contract might be the worst thing that could have happened to him. Because he's on a huge wicket, he's a young footy player that has got a 4-year deal. That it's almost natural for humans to take the path of least resistance, and right now he's got the contract, so there's no desperation. Whereas, let's say he was on a minimum deal right now and he was trying to get signed, I reckon you'd see a bit more desperation.
Mate, like even 900K when you're talking 2.4,
a lot of money.
is it enough
Enough for what?
for Bud Sullivan to take it?
Oh, take it and leave.
Yeah.
No, well, I don't think he will.
Yeah.
The 900K is more along the lines of we'll chip in 900 of the 2.4 over those years. Is there a club out there that will do 1.5
1.5
over 3 years, which would be 500 grand each year?
Which is still crazy for what you've seen.
Yeah, for a young, like, I can understand, like, let's say he was coming out of school and he was the best 7 in the entire nation. Then you could consider going on the 400-500 grand route, buying on potential. But unfortunately, he's came out of school and he was one of the best 7s, but he's had a few years and it hasn't worked in NRL yet. And so you can't take that punt on him anymore. The most bizarre thing about this situation is if you got Sullivan under in the best systems in the competition, I have no doubt that he's an NRL halfback. No doubt. But it's just not lining up at the moment.
Yeah.
No, and it doesn't look like lining up.
The only thing that I do think that works in his favour is could Luai be the man? Because, like, they're flary players. On the field, they both can create something from nothing. And maybe Luai is the leader that he needs to just go, mate, get under my wing. I'm going to show you what it takes to be a first-grade halfback or a first-grade 6. Maybe Luai can bring the best out of him.
Maybe he can, and I think there's every chance he could. But I'm also pretty confident Luai will bring the best out of Galvin. Latu Fainu.
For sure. I more mean if you're just focusing on Sullivan's career, and so let's say Galvin keeps his spot and the Tigers start playing some good footy. But at the very least, if he learns a lot from Luai, he can play really good in New South Wales Cup. And there might be another club that goes, oh, you just won halfback of the year for the Tigers. or like, you know, you were one of the best sevens. We're desperate for a 7. We'll take, you know, a smaller portion of the contract or something like that.
Yeah, potentially, and that's probably best case scenario.
Yeah,
Right?
that's only really the way that he's going to get someone to take him on is if he goes to New South Wales Cup and kills it, which he has the talent to do. Like I'm telling you, Sullivan's talent levels compared to a lot of players in New South Wales Cup is night and day. Like he's that talented, but just a tough situation, tough situation that the Tigers find themselves in. Yeah, and I mean, if you're Sullivan, why would you? Unless you're willing to risk, like, are you willing to risk $1.5 million? Like,
It's a lot of bicky.
it's a lot of money. It's like if he's smart with that, it can give him a good foundation to build a life after footy. If he doesn't go on with it, I guess if I'm like, let's say I was someone in a position of, you know, that could teach Sullivan a thing or whatever, you'd have to ask a question, Sullivan, are you here to make money in the next few years so that you can kind of almost quit footy and focus on life after footy? If that is the case, then just get your contract, play your footy, do your job. Or do you truly believe that you are an NRL 7? And if he says, no, it is more important for me to be an NRL 7 long term than it is for me to have $1.4 million over those few years, if that is the answer, then I think that he should be willing to sacrifice some of that contract to go somewhere else for a fresh start. But at the end of the day, the club he didn't offer himself that contract. The club offered it to him. By all rights, he legally deserves it. It's just a matter of whether he wants to stick around.
And you know what? Like even when I watch him play over the last 12 months, like he looks like he's second guessing himself. Like he looks like his confidence is fucking shattered at the moment.
Look, and I hate to put the boot in with the Tigers, but like it's. I know that there's been a lot of song and dance about the club getting new administration and things turning around, and it is turning around. I don't want to say it's not, but there are multiple players in that system right now that haven't been happy. Even Lockie Galvin asked for a release last year. Yeah. Bateman, they want gone. Papali'i was out of there. You know, so it's not like this year has just been smooth sailing and it's just all on. Like he's the only kid in that squad that's not playing well. Like there are other people as well. So, like I know Tigers fans don't want to hear that, but it is the truth. It is the truth.
Hey, we look through the windscreen of the West Tigers, mate. It's a lot bigger than the rear vision mirror. I'll tell you that much.
You know, so yeah. Look, me personally, I hope that he fulfills his potential, and I don't think it's going to be done by just seeing out that contract at the West Tigers at the moment. There's gonna have to be a sacrifice made for that potential to be fulfilled. It's just a matter of like, you know, the balance between getting the contract that he signed and fulfilling potential. That's going to be the balance.
Yeah.
Thoughts from a Tigers perspective? What do you? I know a lot of Tigers fans will just be like, mate, you're not playing anywhere near that money. You should go. I get it from a fan's perspective. I do.
He's within his rights to stay, as you mentioned. I just can't see a world where he kind of gets a crack, just given the fact that we've got a little bit of depth there. You know, like a guy, if someone goes down with an injury or needs a chop out or whatever, Latu Fanu's the next kind of cab off the rank. It's a great wicket. If I'm him, like, you know, it's pretty. I've never really had to consider that amount of money, but like, you know, why would you rush? But potentially, if you don't rush or don't demonstrate, right, I'll take a bit of a haircut to go and prove myself somewhere else. I don't know. You may not get another contract after this one, really, if you're just going to sit there and kick around in, in reserve grade and not really have an opportunity to show what you got or you know, that you want to improve.
Well, the longer you sit there, this is what you're definitely implying. The longer you sit there, the stronger the message becomes. The money is more important than me being my best.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Yeah.
No.
That's what I was trying to articulate. Yeah.
For sure. And like, I get that, and it's a balance though. I don't want him getting completely ripped off in this situation because he was offered the contract. Like, I'm sure there were other deals he could have taken, but he took that deal. It's just a balance. It's a balance. Yep. So hopefully it works out. Alrighty, guys. Length of the season. RLPA CEO Clint Newton come out. He's leading the charge for a shorter NRL campaign. The RLPA says 93% of players polled they would prefer a shorter season, which is like, you know, it's like I get it, but that's of course they do. The season is super, super long. And it's also work to them. So, you know, if you polled your workforce, would you like to work less weeks? I think most of them would say, yeah, that is true.
On same pay.
I tell you what, on same page. I tell you what though, those 7% that didn't are maniacs. The 7% that were like, nah, no, we love this shit.
So like Jake Travojevic.
Oh yeah,
people like
it was
that.
definitely
Cam McInnes.
Cam Murray, Cam McInnes, Dale Finucane somehow got in that poll. I don't know, he's retired, he got into it.
Yeah.
But anyway, Clint Newton was quoted, the stats that we've got over the last several years amongst our playing group, it's probably around the 22 mark. This is on via SEM. It all depends on the overall calendar, schedule people are asked to play. So when you look at the current schedule, and you've got All-Stars, trial competition, Vegas, World Cup Challenge, 27 rounds, Origin finals, and on international series, I think everyone knows that it's a lot. And we know, again, statistically from our players that they believe a reduction in the number of matches they're asked to play will produce better results for them, either in career length, less injuries, better performance, better recovery time. Ultimately, that produces a better quality for the fan, broadcasters, and major partners. Look, I think we've all been saying for a very long time, even from a fan's perspective, I think it would be better for a shorter season. Now, obviously, from a player's perspective, because it's so long. I don't know what the numbers are if injuries are up or down, but they do look very banged up by the end of the season, like very banged up. It's just a really hard one because if you're Fox and Nine, you're going, hey, we pay for a product. So let's just say they reduce it by 5 rounds. Nine and Fox would go, you know how much money we lose if we don't have rugby league on those weeks? Let's just say we lose $10 million. So when you start hearing those kind of numbers, and that's just a random number thrown out, you go, of course there's a reason why Fox and Nine go, we don't want to reduce the rounds. We literally lose $10 to $20 million in revenue. It's not just a small amount. It's not like, oh yeah, we lose a couple of $100,000, we can cover it. But there has to be, I do believe, a balance between how much the players is good for their body. And I do believe that by shortening the season, you actually might get higher ratings in those games because they might mean more. You can talk about the NFL.
Yeah, and you look at the NFL, urgency. It's the key to all great competitions. Why we love State of Origin, urgency. You got 3 games. You have to perform. It's why we love finals footy, urgency. Whereas the reality of the NRL is like, boys, that 5 weeks after Origin, that feels like 15 weeks. And there's about 9 games that matter in that period, realistically. Yeah. Like it's just too long. And I think that if we did have a shorter season, you would get more players on the field more often. You'd be able to then, you would also have more players on the field when it gets to international footy, which is a big emphasis we've got at the moment. And every game would matter. Yeah,
every game would matter. And I think, from a fan's perspective as well, then I think that you could put more emphasis on the international game as well. That would mean more. Whereas I did feel this year we were, grand final, I think it was 1 week off, and then international footy. Geez, you don't even get any time to miss it.
Yeah, let alone the players. You get burnt out as a fan, don't you? You mentioned that little slog between Origin and the finals. But then, by the time we feel like we've kind of reached this big peak, this big crescendo for the grand final. And then, you got to give people a chance to miss you, Yeah. We're straight back into it.
Yeah.
We still love footy and, still we'll watch it.
We're the diehards, though. We are the diehards, not the casual.
But I think, when I talk to some of my mates, I haven't really watched as much of it or whatever. But, I think if we have a shorter season where more games matter, and then you're able to probably add a little bit more context and have more games that matter in this little international block as well, you're just going to probably have a little bit of a better product, stronger product.
I'd love to see 20 games for sure. 20 games, I feel like... And look, in defence of the NRL, they have been on record and saying we are trying to get the comp to 20 teams for 20 games. So I do think that, we're so used to the RLPA and the NRL being, at each other when that recent... the RLPA NRL drama with all the pay and everything, the CBA deal or whatever it was. Whereas I do think that the NRL are probably on the same page as the RLPA in this situation. It's just a matter of making sure that the networks are appeased. And also, we've just gone on and ranted and raved about having the best year we've ever had. Ratings are up. We're beating the AFL. There's an argument you said, why start changing things when we've literally just had the best year we've ever had? So I can understand why the NRL are a bit reluctant to do it now, but I also get from a player's perspective, the year is too long. I'm hoping by, I think, 2027 or so. I'm hoping that they've reduced it down to around the 22 mark. And then by 2030, when I think that's the time when they're hoping to have the 20 teams in there.
Yep.
That's probably when you're going to have 20 rounds. I tell you what, 20 rounds with 20 teams will be electric. It'll be electric.
Yeah, it'll be unreal. And can you imagine in 20, 30 years' time, like you'll have former players coming in to do podcast interviews and whatnot, where they'll be talking about the season where they went to Vegas, they played 3 Origin games, they played 27 games of football, they played 4 weeks of finals, they then played internationals, and I think we're going to look back at this period of time and the amount of games these guys are playing and just go, that's outrageous.
Yeah.
How the hell did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, I agree with you. What I'm hoping is that there's a crazy amount of games that we're playing is the rugby league community collectively putting in the hard yards, no, well, not us, the players, putting in the hard yards to get us that next TV deal that's just incredible. Because that's one area where the AFL blow us out of the water. We have better TV ratings, and yet their deal is way bigger than our deal with the TV networks. And I'm hoping that with all these crazy numbers that we're putting up and most viewed, I'm hoping that the players reap the rewards of that, the future players, with a bigger TV deal with less games. That would be such a win. And I think a lot of these current crop players would be, if their legacy is that, I think they'd be happy with that. Just quickly on the NFL season being shorter and killing it, the NFL have I think it's top 5 out of the top 10 most valuable sporting organizations are NFL organizations. And NFL isn't even as big as soccer. It's not even close to football. Football dwarfs the NFL in numbers, and yet it is they're the most valuable organizations in the world. Why is that? It's because their season is just so well done, and they don't have all the rep stuff. Imagine our game with a shorter season, and then how hectic with all the work that's been done. We just watched on the weekend one of the greatest international games I've seen. Imagine with more time, more resources put in, it'd be incredible. So,
Exactly right.
According to the Forbes list of most valuable sports teams, it goes Dallas Cowboys, so American football. Then you got 2 others, and then you got 5 in a row of American football.
yeah,
And mate, the Dallas Cowboys are an absolute clusterfuck. Have been for a long time.
which just shows you how good of the league is over there, because that shouldn't the football clubs are way bigger. Now, granted, I understand that football clubs, the reason why they're not valued at more is they have no salary cap, so they spend all their money in the markets. I get that, but it is just a good example.
What also goes to show you is how valuable a high production value cheerleader doco can be as well. Get you to the top of the pile.
You've got the F1 doco, and then you've got the cheerleading doco for NFL.
Yep.
Sells, baby. It sells.
Do we need to draw your diagram, people? Seriously.
Do we need to go back to the best sound in sport? Is that what you want? So we can. Okay. Alrighty, let's get to it then. Let's get to Face the Music, brought to you by our friends over at Sportsbet. Let's get our tips in for next week. And don't forget, guys, do not forget, tonight, 6 p.m., make sure to grab a DMP shirt. And listen, if you're listening to this after 6 p.m., head to bloke.shop. We still will have some on the website. We hopefully still have some on the website. Make sure to grab one. We would really appreciate it. And they're bloody good shirts. They're bloody good shirts that last forever, high-quality material.
All right, so we've got the market up for the Australia-Tonga game. Australia $1.12, Tonga $6.50. The line is 18.5. Now, because of you chose a winger last week, I'm just going to change up the order here. I'm going to go first this week. I'm going to go Australia to win, but I'm going to go Tonga plus 18.5. And my try scorer is Adam Fanua-Blake.
Okay, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you just, once again, making up more rules that suit him, just like the 2 try scorer last week.
I think we're just due to mix up the order a little bit.
Okay. I am going to go the Kangaroos to win. I'm going to go to win. I'm going to go to win 13 plus. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go Dearden anytime try scorer.
Okay.
I'm going to go Australia to win, Tonga plus 18.5.
Yep.
Give me Mitch Moses, ATS.
Oh, okay.
I will go Australia, but Tonga with the 18-point start, and I'll go Hudson Young.
Okay, yep.
Is he going to start for Cam
I
Murray?
like that. I assume he will.
Yeah.
Hang on, actually, I'll just go the 18-point start too then, because that gives me 13 plus. That gives me more. I'll go 18 plus. Yeah, 18 Tonga 18 plus start.
Okay. All right. Timmy, if you're listening, make sure you send me some tips for this game so I don't have a repeat of last week. We haven't actually got to mark it up for the PNG Kiwis game, but if you want to give me a margin and a try score on that one as well, I'll throw them in. I will go. It's me first again. I'm going to go New Zealand 13 plus, but I'm going to take McDonald anytime try scorer.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to go Kiwis 13 plus, and I'm going to go Kinney anytime try scorer.
I'll go New Zealand 13 plus, Isaiah Papali'i anytime try scorer.
Kiwis 13 plus, SJ anytime.
SJ, in his farewell. Now, Race that Stops the Nation tomorrow, boys, as well. Yep. Would love to get a tip for you in this one. I'm going with number 18, Interpretation, which will be getting around at $20. We'll have a unit. You want to go each way on them or unit each?
Yep.
So to win $20, $4.50 the place. That's Interpretation in the Melbourne Cup tomorrow. Who do you like, Campy?
I'm just getting into the...
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
All right. We had Gold Rush Guru get up on the weekend at $7. I'm going to take, at $7 again, Buckaroo to get it done.
Yep. $2.50 the place there as well, Buckaroo. CJ Waller is the trainer there. Beak or Matty?
That is frustratingly annoying because that's who I want as well. Buckaroo.
Sounds likely, mate.
You gonna go?
No, that was I've done.
You're doing Buckaroo?
I'm not veering. I'm going Buckaroo.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Got the blinkers on.
Okay, I am going to go Zardozi to win. And yeah, Zardozi.
Yeah, $11, $3.30 the place. I think you had Zardozi earlier in the carnival, and it nearly got there.
Nearly got there. So look, some of us know racing, some of us don't.
You can forgive a good horse, as they say.
Yeah,
Heavy.
they always say that.
Yep. All right, there we go. That's Face the Music. Big week coming up for it. Finals of the Pacific Champs and the Melbourne Cup tomorrow. Make sure you're following Beak and myself on the feed.
On the feed, get around us, and thanks to Sportsbet. As always, DMP drop tonight, 6 p.m. Be there, guys. We'd really appreciate it. And as usual, we'll all go and fuck ourselves. Thank you.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.